Welcome to the show. What a crazy day. I guess you've seen what's been going on with Alex Jones, just the way that they're, beating him, verbally abusing him, psychologically tormenting him. It's a terrible time in America. Also, we have a recession definition now, thankfully, because our definition of recession wasn't good enough. And we mislabeled things recessions before, for instance, during the Trump administration. And now we have this Biden administration pseudo recession, which we now know is not a recession, thankfully, because it's been added to the definition. I'm Andreas. This is David Plate and Eddie. Welcome to Synctank. How you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good.
All right. Man. So Eddie, I got a thing I wanted to show you right off the top of the head. Let me see if I can find where I pulled this up. I have it as a tweet I did. There it is. Okay. Sharing screen. Oh, and there's also the wonderful William John in the house tonight. Last but not least, he was hidden from the screen. But
I got to get professional here.
No. What you have is you have a license to commit thought crime. That's bigger than, so it's better than license to kill in James Bond. You can jest at the kings of kings.
23.
Indeed. Oh, we should get into 23 and 32. That's a great movie. Anyway, really quickly, Kim Kardashian back with another modeling shoot. And I couldn't help but say, we get it. You worship Saturn. Okay. Because she's doing this ring thing, right? And it's just been this thing where all the media has just been pushing the Saturn symbology. And then there was this Saturn rings disappearing. You guys saw this happening? News rings disappearing. And they say, they're disappearing faster than we thought, right? We thought they were disappearing over thousands of years, maybe. We could handle that, 300 million years or something like that. But then they're saying, actually, this could actually happen in the next, 1,000 years, 100 years, which is a pretty big difference if you think about it. So we might be losing Saturn's ring. So I wonder what you think about that, the Saturn symbology. They love Saturn. What do you think of that also? What's up with that?
Have you read the book by, I'm sure David is familiar with Project Camelot. They interviewed this guy, the author of Ring Makers of Saturn, which is, he passed away like last year, I think. I'm blanking out with his name. Norman Berggren.
Oh, there you go.
He was one of the original space program scientists. I don't know if he's propulsion scientist. But he was talking about that years ago, that these gigantic vehicles, they call the EV, electronic, what's the acronym? EV.
UAVs?
Not UAV, no. No, it's basically just massive electronic vehicles. Electric, oh my God, I'm trying to remember the name. But anyways, basically, they have these gigantic vehicles chewing up the planets.
Ooh, the social change for and internal war potential. SORO. That's pretty good. I saw that.
I hope it's not part of the George Ford Foundation.
It feels so. This is interesting, but yeah, what is Project Camelot? What was Project Camelot?
Well, I don't want to associate this Norman Berggren with him, because he did his last interview with Kerry from
they provided platforms for a range of people, and so whatever agendas those particular people happen to have, I think it seems like they have enough of a various viewpoints that they cater to. So I don't see it very directed, and it's older, right? We're talking about. Is Project Camelot even doing? What are they up to for the last 10 years? I have no idea.
I think they've been falling apart.
But what is Project Camelot?
Okay.
What was
it? It's a whistleblower. It's a whistleblower platform. You can think of it the same way as Alex Jones, where they say, "Hey, we're going to invite somebody to blow the whistle on this and that, on a secret space program, black budget programs."
Some of it's eye rolling, some of it's like, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but most of the time, some of these people will come forward and they end up dying. Like same thing with Alex Jones. I know a handful of people who got on his show and got killed right away.
Right.
I think they know what they're getting themselves into. They couldn't live with the secrets anymore. They just say, I want a platform. I want to speak out to a large audience, and I'm willing to die for it. That kind of thing. But at the same time, I don't know about whether there's well, I've seen them making secret handshakes. Okay, I've seen, well, Carrie Cassidy had a partner, Brian. No, not Brian. What's his name? The guy wearing the hat all the time. David, you remember his name?
Oh yeah, I know you're talking. Wearing the cowboy hat.
Yeah. The British guy.
Yeah. I don't remember his name. No.
But I caught him making the secret handshake all the time. So.
Oh yeah. Which secret handshake is that? We talking 32 degree?
I'm just talking about the basic grips.
I mean, I was watching Home Improvement the other night. Home Improvement is that show with Tim Allen, right? And in the show, they have a scene with them like about 3 times. NASA comes to visit, and each time Al Karn, who's Al's the character that Al Karn plays, he does the Masonic handshake, and it's very quick. And the 3rd time, they just barely do it in front of the monitor screen, so you can't quite. So you can
come on, it's got the pyramid right there in the title. The way they do that.
Let's look at that. It's a pyramid. A pyramid with
what they're doing, the exact knuckle they're pressing on, and then look at the guy. He's literally wearing an apron right in the middle.
Yeah, the apron is the come on. He is the secret of the show.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, he's the witness. Every time they make the handshake, you have to have the witness.
This all started because Bob Vila, he was 33rd degree, right? Is that?
Well, I'd also want to throw in. I wouldn't be surprised. Bob Vila must be 33rd degree. Come on, and he has to be. But also, Wilson is supposed to be cousins with the Beach Boys, which is your Laurel Canyon connection. And they go for it. The Beach Boys come to the house and they do a bunch of the Laurel Canyon songs and everything. So there is an interesting connection there.
But they don't do the Lions Paw. Do you ever see anybody doing the Lions Paw? Have you ever seen
Pat.
Obama was an honorary 32nd degree Freemason, right?
I've seen a lot of religious. I've seen what's his name, the pastor, Pat. What's his name? Pat. The evangelical.
Pat Robertson.
Yeah, Pat Robertson did it on live TV. I think. And what's the other one? With the white hair. I forgot all these names already. It seems like religious figures all do that.
Yeah, well, this is all my heart, all my mind, and all my strength. That's the three fingers on the pulse. So, like, if Pink Floyd, obviously the Dark Side of the Moon, Wizard of Oz thing. That's one of the kind of interesting. What is the thing? Is there some relationship between the time code for time, the song Time, and Saturn rotation or something? It was what is it? Is it 333 or something? I can't remember. I'm not doing this justice. But it's that you have the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the lion. You have all my heart, all my mind, and all my strength, right? So that's the Lion's Paw, which is interesting with the MGM thing. We had a show recently that didn't record or recorded Andreas and no one else. What happened?
Oh my God. Yeah. You know what? I still haven't uploaded what they did get because somehow, so he has a mixing board. The guy we're doing a show for on Wizard of Oz, connecting Oz to the Oz or Oz word, the Hebrew word of strength. And this idea of that, if you know about Wizard of Oz, it's written by Baum, who was a theosophist, and he was very interested in occult. And the books are very clear on this. The land of Mu comes from before Oz, etc. But the sad thing was that he recorded the audio tracks late in his mixer for he had music mixing for the first 4 tracks. So he got only the audio of me talking, which is a kind of irony, a sweet irony. Mm-hmm. But he remixed it into an hour-long rant song techno thing. So at some point we'll put that up. But it's missing a lot because the big thing is, David, one of the main reasons I know David, I mean, not aside from the fact that he's as tall as Howard Stern and he just stands above the clouds and you can't 100 feet away, you can't help but noticing this man dance in any of the festivals you've ever been at. But aside from that, when you start to have a conversation with him, he knows everything about Wizard of Oz. That was the first thing we had a conversation on. And so, that was the missing piece. Maybe actually we should go into the lion more because of that. And also Narnia. But
dude, so like just interesting points that were in that discussion that were like some of the takeaways. I thought, like it's like little factoids, like the sound effect for the beast from Poltergeist that was produced by Industrial Light and Magic was used for over 20 years, dubbed in over the MGM Lions roar for like every MGM Lion intro. So even though they'd like slightly changed the intro, you still have this sound effect that wasn't even from a lion in the first place. You know, it was a sound effect produced by Industrial Light and Magic, the specific way that it like, so it's a scene in Poltergeist where there's like, there's the door opens and there's like this fucking creature with like crazy long legs. It looks like a land strider from the Dark Crystal or something, but it's like demonic, you know, demonic land strider. And so like, and then she screams, and then there's that sound effect. And if you play them together, you can, you know, if you overdub it yourself, you can see like this is the MGM Lion roar. But that's very significant because it's like in the film they say to her it's just another child, but to us it is the beast. And so you have Trade, Mark of the, you know, it's funny. It shows up in Lucifer Rising actually in the bathtub towards the beginning. MGM logo. Why, you know why? Because the you can't buy or sell without the mark of the beast. And so the original one for Wizard of Oz was Leo. That was Leo the lion, which is obviously Leo ruled by the sun. And then that's the thing is that when we're relating to, you know, that whole idea of the beast of the apocalypse, like in the Arcana, you know, that's present in Crowley's deck as the lust card, but we see that in the Rider-Waite as strength. And so as far as I can tell, like this is a little heady, but like if people know, like the Saudi Star Emperor Hay switch that Crowley did, like you want to arrange those arcana while ignoring the Roman numerals. Like just look at the Hebrew letters in order, and you arrange that switch. You can see that it's basically you get a window into the other name. Not that you should need or want that, but if you want to know what it is that certain people relate to, that they believe, like these arcana are meant to like twist in a way, or not that they're meant to, they can. So it's like it's like a dog licking its asshole. Like it does it because it can. This is the way we gravitate because we're always, you know, like those apes in 2001 expect, are we going to get struck by lightning? Is something going to happen? You know, it's just like we do what we do. And so, yeah.
The visuals were a lot for people.
But it's coming back to like the Saturn thing. I mean, Saturn historically, like if you go back far enough, like that's relating to the feminine.
Right. The belly has the babes in the belly and has to cut. I mean, swallowing the children, the masculine.
But that's Kronos. So like, but that's the thing is like the, you know, it's actually, is that the middle finger? Because the index finger is Jupiter. Like we get palmistry from Jewish mysticism, right? That's the origin of palmistry. And, you know, but you have Jupiter and you have Saturn. Like if you make a peace sign, you're literally like Jupiter and Saturn, which is funny. It's like, you know, but that's Greek, you know, and then that's Roman, you know, Roman Jupiter. Yeah, obviously Saturn, but Kronos and what am I saying?
Well, I mean, the feminine, the masculinization, the androgenization of the feminine.
Yeah, I mean, the symbolism did a whole crazy inversion, and it's not even just that. It's like it's not even the point that it's male or female. It's the specific symbolism that surrounds the thing. Right. And so, like, it's what we're projecting and what we're relating to. Like, I feel that Saturn. I mean, I think Eddie, you'd probably agree with this much, that there's great mystery in Saturn, and like what that is, like I'm open to, and like I can see the way that, like, just like when I look at like 9/11, like I feel like there was an event that's beyond the ritual. Like if you're relating to that, as Jay Coates would, as like a mega, you know, sacrifice, this mega event. It's like that event was there in the first place, but it got enshrouded like fucking Carol Ann. Like it got enveloped by these different, like, you know, by these different forces that wanted to like maintain or milk this age, this eon, for all that it could or all that it can. And it's continuing the same formula that went on with 9/11. We see repeated in all of these areas. Like, I mean, what happened with the Patriot Act? Like that was like, you're looking at like what gets used to rationalize endless laws, and that comes to like, you know, Nietzsche and the birth of tragedy. Like order is a good thing, but too much order becomes destructive. It's like why Apollo literally means the destroyer. Well, you're like, it's order. We need order, but it's that you need that balance. And so like we're not seeing that balance.
Yeah, it's like the Kali Yuga and all that stuff. I mean,
Saturn is Captain Hook. Oh my God, sorry, you're gone.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, if you look at Saturn, I mean, it's a symbol of the black sun, which is in Chinese is basically yin and yang. You know, you got the sun and you got the hidden sun. So it's a balancing act, and it's I mean I don't when you see my posts and synchronous, I mean I don't mean to say, hey, Saturn is the quote unquote Satan, Saturn worship, but no,
Saturn becomes what you want it to be, and that's what people do with all things esoteric or exoteric. They just kind of project onto and formulate it how they want. And if somebody believes something, you got to deal with that. Like, I mean, that's there. Then that becomes a variable. Like that it doesn't matter whether or not something's like the ultimate truth or whatever. It's like if people have a doctrine, if they have an ideology, you have to deal with that ideology. It'd be nice if you could take the spiritual high road and not just end up mirroring back nothing but the same dysfunctions. But at the same time, you got to deal with things on their own level. So, like, if you're talking about people who relate to Saturn as they do, it's like that's your guys' trip.
Maybe Saturn is the divine feminine. I can't even say that word. But
I wonder if it's okay. So we've got this thing that swallows babies. Cronus is Saturn, and but at the end of the day, Saturn is gestating the babies because those babies come out as gods. And so there's this kind of idea of the androgyny of the god, that the god is fulfilling both halves of the human condition, which requires us to work together that we can't do as an individual, even though we can become very powerful individuals. A community of bums seems to be more effective than a single powerful individual in the long run or in the greater scheme.
Saturn is the furthest planet out, right? Of the ancient astronomy, that's the last planet, right?
Unless you look at Sumerian stuff, yeah.
And generally associated with time, correct?
Yes.
Chronology. Is that true about the Sumerian stuff, or is that a Zechariah Sitchin formulation that he projected onto them?
Well, I mean, they have found a number of corroborative plates. A lot of people want to say, I've had you and Junior on here saying, everything before 1800s is made up. And, Pluto was discovered supposedly by the Nazis, right, in the 30s. So the idea that we didn't see all the planets until the 20th century, there is that story based on they've seen pictures which show 9 to 11 planets, because they show perhaps a moon to one of the larger planets and an additional beyond Pluto bi-elliptical planet, right? Which is that Nibiru thing. The idea that we're spinning really fast. This thing spins slowly. These many cycles is one of these cycles. 5,000 years cycles is one of their 1 year cycle. So it seems like these, Anunnaki, Nibiru that they described. And that's not just from Sitchin. You can look at the Epic of Gilgamesh, and it has the same idea that they aren't quite immortal. They just have they're bigger and they last longer, which expansion.
It's open to interpretation. The best text to look at when you're looking at the Sumerian text include the fragments. If you're seeing those fragments filled in for you, it's not a reliable source, but it's very obscure and cryptic, But if you want like the whole Tiamat thing, so what was the idea that there's this giant planet? It came through, and it's, you have elliptical orbits and ecliptical orbits, and it came through after whatever longer route it is. It gets super cold because it goes so far out, and then it hit the moon? Is that what happened? There was another planet. It broke apart and became our asteroid belt, and then I don't know. We don't need
to. The Patrick Stewart Scholastic magazine, whatever special they made us watch in 3rd grade Californian public school, said that. There was a planet called Theia, and Theia hits what was proto-Earth, whatever we're supposed to call that, and goes through it and becomes part of Earth, and the other part of it goes inside out, and then that becomes the moon. That's the
wow. Yeah, I thought my creation schooling was a little
right,
pretty weird.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's just as crazy. Whatever.
Before we go too far away from the subject with the cuneiform, I just wanted to see what you guys think about Hobby Lobby, the store, right? The arts and crafts store, Hobby Lobby.
Mm-hmm.
And
and they bought the Sumerian tower. Oh, that's a good thing to bring up.
A chunk of the Gilgamesh.
They bought a chunk of the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah, well, it was looted from the Iraqi museum. And look it up yourself. Yeah.
Here we go. The stolen Mesopotamian tablet acquired by Hobby Lobby. Finally going back to Iraq. So you can actually explain this story better, but isn't it that the U.S. military and a bunch of these paramilitary groups, am I right? Blackwater showed up and grabbed a bunch of stuff, sold it to a bunch of American corporations run by similar people. Because you have to imagine if you or you probably own a Hobby Lobby, you might have money in some military defense contracts as well. You never know.
Well, I mean, the other thing you need to know about Hobby Lobby, the founding family, they're extremely religious. They're like fundamental Christians, and they want the proof of the Noah's deluge and all that stuff. Trying to use these cuneiform tablets to back up their claims.
See, this is the thing, man. Can I just qualify myself? Because if I'm gonna discuss this at all, like I have to like kind of like give you a brief synopsis of like my feelings as far as like Zecharia Sitchin goes.
Yeah.
It's like that guy.
I had to call him. I called him in New York one time. I woke him up in the middle of the night.
he works at the UN, right? He has his own office at the UN.
There's your first sign.
When I read The 12th Planet, I read some of his other stuff too, whatever. I was like, you know what? At first, when I first went into it, I was like, I have to like cross-reference like right away. I was like, is that true? Shem being the name, what we would say name in Hebrew being a spaceship and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, where you get it, whatever. And like, I just read the book and entertained it. This is fun. I'm going on a fun little journey, like Children of the Matrix, you know what I mean? Like you just want to see what happens. And then I went back afterwards, and the first page, it was like, damn, like it was the most easy shit to debunk. Like, and also I saw that he did a thing where he would have a lot of shit that was actually true that he would follow through with, but the basis that for him the platform that he presented to continue on with his reasoning was observably false. And so like, but the thing is, as far as like the Vatican and like all this shit goes, that in their fucking library that we don't have access to all kinds of shit. And so like, how perfect is it that if anybody brings up what you do is, it's like Carol Ann, you enshroud it in bullshit, and whatever's there that they don't want people to fucking go after, they can reject it with the bathwater. Like, it's like you say it and people are like, oh, the Zecharia Sitchin thing. And so like another person, it's not just disinfo. It's like, let's mix up whatever's pointing people in that direction. Like if they were to go down that rabbit hole. So it's like, and it seems to happen like as things are uncovered. So it's like, okay, we're gonna send that somewhere else. The same thing fucking happens with Kenneth Anger. So like, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, but like for real, like that's a good one. Like Kenneth Anger, it's like, dude, that guy, like with Hollywood Babylon, like that some of that shit is fucking for real. You know what I mean?
Looks like now? Is that like go back to the last picture?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to see his chest tattoo. So all the young kids getting chest tattoos know what they look like.
It's like, so if you talk at the time about weird shit going on in Hollywood, you're like, oh, that's some fucking Kenneth Anger shit. That guy's a fucking hack, whatever.
Got that late Leary stare. You know what I mean? Man. That rattled.
Before we get away from Zecharia Sitchin, I'll go to Zecharia Sitchin and Jordan Maxwell.
Right. Hold on. Let me jump back. Let me see here. Sitchin, Jordan Maxwell. Really? So he was friends with Maxwell?
Oh yeah, they had some firm handshake.
No.
Go down. Yeah, go down. No, not that one, but it's see right there. Oh, right.
Ow. There you go. This is like the Untouchable scene right there. Zoom in. Wow. So that's interesting. I mean, of course he has to be, and so that
isn't that the 32nd degree thing?
That is pressed.
He made it clear he's lower.
Where you're just like that dainty little, oh, I got you, I got you.
He's not full, right? Yeah. That's kind of interesting. So, I mean, you've got a guy who is definitely associated with the elite. I mean, you'd mentioned, UN, the associations there, and this idea of bringing forth aliens into the, public consciousness. And that's a huge thing right now. Everyone's like, governments are saying, we're going to disclose aliens. Gradual disclosure usually means PR stunts, and
are they just, is this all just like a joke? Because they're like the outside ones, like the Sitra Akra, that's like literally the screen that you're relating to the world through. That's not like, it's like the fucking Body Snatchers thing where like, they're here already. Like that seems to be the kicker. It's like, yeah, the extraterrestrials have been here the whole time and they've just been straining the emanated flow. and it'll reach an impasse.
I'm
like
gung ho to I'm doing my damnedest to try not to get through the subject because I want to save it, and I'm worried once we're done that it'll, you know what I mean. So what I want to do
is, you're saving something. Just drop
I
it.
want to take any chance to segue so we can come back to this because Saturn Project Camelot is so important. So what I want to do now is I want to jump to
before
the
you
Vatican.
jump on, hold your thought on that. But I just send you a messenger on through Facebook.
Can you send on Twitter, or actually, can you send it in the private chat? There's a private chat in StreamYard.
You can do it right here.
I'm doing from my desktop.
Okay, hold on. I'll jump into the messenger. Facebook is just hard to load. It just wants to load a lot of things it doesn't need to. I'm almost there.
Twitter.
I got it. 1 second. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, yesterday, the James Webb telescope, right?
Right.
Yeah. So they trained the telescope to look at the farthest star at the edge of this galaxy. And do you even know this name, Arendelle?
Is it some Amazon Lord of the Rings stuff? Just kidding.
Yeah, it's part of the tokens. So Arendelle is basically it's transferred as the librarian of Lucifer. So I don't know. I have a well, we'll get to China later, but I have a feeling. I just made a post because I got out of the Facebook prison.
Yeah, this is important also, by the way, is that Facebook jail idea. So Eddie recently got back into Facebook jail. He's been free of Facebook jail for about, what was it, a week or 30 days or something?
Well, I was supposed to be sitting 30 days, yeah.
So I just want to say congratulations on your week of freedom, and I'm sorry that you're back on Facebook, but you know what? So are we. So, you're back in the cell with the rest of us. And
not me, but yeah.
Yeah, thank God David's free. David, you're still on the John Galt level of Ayn Rand. But this is an interesting thing. We had a guy, Esoteric Eddie, came on, and he talked a bit about Lucifer in the Bible being mistranslated by Erasmus from phosphorus referring to Venus. And again, with the inversion of the masculine feminine, that's a big part of where we get. Granted, we have all kinds of pagan traditions that got into Christianity as well that led to demons being masculine. But there was originally Venus and Lilith, and this idea of Lilith and Venus being connected to Saturn. You've also seen the thing that Saturn was much bigger, right, in the sky 1,000 years ago. It was about the size of the moon. So there were times when you'd see it and you'd be like, whoa, this is not. There's all these pictures drawn of the sun, the moon, and Saturn in proportional sizes as well from a period before things started to move. So there's a point when the elliptical orbit of Saturn was a lot closer to us than it is now.
You guys heard about the legendary or whatever, the fabled Project Lucifer.
I remember that.
Well, so supposedly the secret plan to detonate the gas planets,
right,
including Saturn and Jupiter, and the sequel to 2001, the 2010, the year we made contact is
two suns.
Yeah, exactly. The existence of two suns. So knowing that the Saturn is on the path of self-destruction, and then maybe I mentioned it last episode, but Prince Harry, right?
Not personally.
Prince Harry, on his 33rd birthday on September 15th, Cassini spacecraft, after years of orbiting around Saturn, it plunged. It was it was programmed to plunge into Saturn. It crashed into Saturn on his 33rd birthday.
Wow, Eddie, were you a fan of the subliminal synchrosphere?
I used to follow that page. I haven't read it in a long time.
That was just, as far as blogs go, that was one of the best blogs I've ever seen on the internet. Just saying. But that sounds like something that he probably looked at. Is what you were just saying. Like that's right up his radar.
Because I don't even know who created that site. But basically, I've tried to pay attention to a lot of dates.
Horse Lover Fat. He's in Ireland.
Oh yes. Okay, now I remember him. So a lot of funny things going on with Harry. I think Americans need to pay attention to this guy because he lives permanently in California now, and he married Meghan Markle on the day King Henry VIII chopped off the head of Queen Anne Boleyn.
Not the same year, though.
Not the same year, but they got married on May 19th. It all revolves around 519-915. Cassini crashed into Saturn on 915, and then he married Meghan Markle on the day Queen Boleyn died, 519. And so it's just, I'm just telling you, there's some kind of Saturn coding going on there. But
somebody's asking, isn't Harry Banksy? Banksy, if you want to know who Banksy is, there's like an official Banksy book that's like the Banksy book or whatever. And the guy who runs the official Banksy store in London, after like talking to him for like over an hour, he revealed to me that if you look at that book, his name is actually the most inconspicuous of contributors to the book. So like, I don't remember, it's the front or the back. You turn it in, you just look at who did the book. I believe it's photo arrangement. And so that is actually Banksy. His name shows up in the book. And yeah, most people probably do not actually know who he is.
I'm gonna throw up another one, which is that I'm Banksy, says Prince William, as he admits to the East End artists. And if you go a little deeper, if you start typing it in and you look for there's a graffiti that's been put up, people saying it's Banksy. I think what it is that there's a collective that's run by
that's
William.
Spartacus, man. Yeah. That's what's become of it. If you want to talk about the original dude who did the mockumentary thing with the gallery and all that, that's that guy. But yes, dude, it's one of those things where it's like, I am Spartacus, and it's like, okay.
The Dread Pirate Robert.
I guess I just end what I'm trying to say is that Prince Harry is the Black Sun. He's Invictus Games. That's his
right.
Organization.
Do you envision him going to the territories to build that gallery in like the hairiest spot between with Israel and Palestine? Like, did he do that? I find it powerful.
He could use Banksy to do things like that. That's the thing. Like the moniker is so valuable. Like he can go to Disneyland or Chernobyl through this character, and so it's a powerful thing to control. And you have to remember, you've got security around these princes who aren't allowed to get in trouble, and it would be embarrassing for the royal family. So they can do anything and get away with
Jack
it.
the Ripper, it's a part of the royal family, just going around spreading STDs.
In fact, the Scotland Yard detective in charge of the Jack the Ripper case was Sir Spencer. And Spencer is, as you might know, Diana Spencer became Princess Diana. So there is a huge connection to Jack the Ripper.
That
his wife is also Spencer, right? Yeah.
Who Jack the Ripper was fucking Lewis Carroll, right? Whatever his real name was.
Well, there's a couple of stories there. One of them is that
he was in his 70s when he was killing, or 80s or something when he was killing him, right?
One of the stories was that it was Princess Victoria or Elizabeth, Princess Elizabeth the First, or Princess Victoria. It might have been Princess Victoria's brother, and he was the firstborn heir who was supposed to be royal, but he had all kinds of incapable problems. He was incompatible from incestuous breeding and had all kinds of problems.
They said it was the 42 thing. So his obsession with 42, and it was like a victim thing or whatever. But it's bullshit. But there is that book, Lewis Carroll in Numberland, and that's a fucking great book with a chapter on 42 specifically and his use of 42. It's pretty cool.
42 is also connected to Shakespeare. Sir Alexander Woe, who we had on the show at some point, talked about how 42 is connected to the 1742 and the Sir Francis Bacon Oxfordian, Sir Edward de Vere, right? Earl of Oxford.
And Alice, this is what puzzles me with Alice in Wonderland is that in the book, it said that the rule 42 is you shall now grow something. It took place in the
one allowed over how many feet high is allowed in the courtroom?
I forgot a number, but that's rule 42.
Giants out.
Yeah,
sorry, David, you're not allowed. But
in the Disney cartoon version, in the Alice in Wonderland, it says rule 42: the queen always wins. So it completely I don't know. I feel like
that's interesting though. Does it have to do with the giantism in the royal family or something to that effect? They are very tall, and maybe the queen always wins. Yeah. We got a super chat from Dawn saying Synctank for president. Rock on, gentlemen. $20. It's not bad. I appreciate that. And there's a question that we're going to get to from Travis. He did not say yeet. He did. Thank you. He said Chinese military surrounds Taiwan during Pelosi's visit. Yeet. I think we might be about ready to talk about Taiwan. What do you guys think?
I'm ready when you are.
My God, I mean,
my parents live there, so I'm like, well, they're not gonna kill them anytime soon. But
let me, yeah, hopefully not. Let's go to my article wherever this is. There we go. So Nancy Pelosi, our most powerful dignitary, arrives in Taiwan, drawing a sharp response from Beijing. China announced, and by China we do mean the People's Republic, PRC, not the actual Taiwanese China, the real China. But this other one here says that what do you call that in the doppelganger China says that we announced plans for live fire military drills soon after Mrs. Pelosi flew into Taiwan. Analysis said Beijing's moves seem designed to project strength rather than serve as a precursor to an invasion. So here we are trying, all of our Western media doing its damnedest to say, hey, it's just calm down. China's just trying to, don't worry, it's just aesthetics.
Dude, it's like you got a crazy aunt or something, and you're like, I hope she's just doing okay. Just you got this routine, just like, and then you're like, oh shit, what did she do? She went out naked in the rain, and she's knocking on the neighbor's door, and you're like, that's not going to go well with the neighbors, It's like, can you just do your thing, Like, do you have to, you can't manage her,
It sounds more like her husband. He was like driving drunk in Napa Valley and just like crashing. I bought all these microchip stocks.
Dude, I worked at a vineyard for a summer when I was growing up, and like in the tasting room and shit, and you're like, these people are fucked up. And then they like go to their cars to go to the next place. And you're like, well, I guess there's not that much traffic, I mean, provided this was in Placerville, not Napa, although I have spent time in Napa and I see a lot of drunk people, but it's just like, dude, like you're just, it's, your wine tasting is supposed to be it's so sophisticated. And then like, I know that there are people with that palate that like they can do the fucking blindfold. It's a real thing. I met people that are like that. It's incredible. But most of the time it's just, this wine has a pretentious quality, and you're like, I think you might be projecting onto the wine. Like it's a problem, like there's like this whole weird shit that people say. You're like, are you? Yeah. And they're just drunk and saying shit about the wine. And you're like, dude, what the fuck? Anyway, that's completely irrelevant. I'm sorry.
The irony being that Napa is famous for wine because in 1976, there was in 1974 to 76 in France, there was a major blight upon grapes, and it destroyed so many kinds of grapes. But in Napa and into Saratoga, French and Basque, particularly farmers who'd come from France and the Basque Country, had built wineries and had kept those wines going. And in 1976, the United States, Napa Valley one of the ranchers won the best Sauvignon Blanc, I think it was, or it was a Chardonnay. I think it was the best Chardonnay in the world. And after that, they went to California. So if you like French wines, about half of the most expensive ones are regrown from grapes from California that had been saved from centuries earlier. So
was it the one that Orson Welles was advertising for? That you got all the outtakes for?
That was a classic.
Yeah. Will Ferrell did a good bit on that in Spoils of Babylon.
God, Orson Welles was a drunk, and it's the great thing about him. Like, he was willing to do a spot if it could get him a fed belly, and he had a big belly to feed, so it's fair.
Yeah.
Well, he was from Wisconsin.
Rosebud.
But okay, China. Let's be real. Taiwan. So Nancy Pelosi, she doesn't care about Taiwan. If anything, she's working for the PRC, isn't she? I don't know. I speculate, but what's really happening here? She's acting like she's trying to defend Taiwan. Am I too cynical?
I have no idea what's going on. Why? Actually, somebody in the group kept asking me, why is she physically flying in? We can sit over there, robots. Yeah. It's no, it just
she wants to be personable, and I don't know what's the custom now, because it used to be that like you'd shake hands, even though that's not the tradition. Like you bow or whatever, There's like that idea that goes back to a virus from way back when, where the bowing thing came about, maybe even the shoes or whatever. But like, legs, yeah. But like, I don't know how you work that because it's already awkward. So you're like, are we shaking hands again? Like
they should get in and kiss. She take their mask down or mask kiss is also really like trendy, right? Like kissing through the mask. I don't know, it's adorable.
Yeah, but Trump wanted to get rid of the custom of the handshake. which he
just like George Washington,
entertained in The Art of the Comeback, along with like basically him expressing how much of a germaphobe
people are making fun of his hands. This is crazy. He had enough. They talk about my small hands.
I think it's funny though, because like the small hands thing I had a boss who really hated Trump, and he hated Trump so much he bought Trump soap. Trump sizes was a little tiny hand soap. And I was like, he's like, is this great? Is this hilarious? And I'm like, yeah, you just gave a couple $100 to the guy you don't want to win, which is fine for me, but it's hilarious that's how that works is reaction. It doesn't matter if it's love or hate, it's reaction. And that gets you money if you know how to use it. He did that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess to get back to the issue, when did she arrived in Taiwan? Like wee hour in the morning, right? Like something like 5 o'clock Pacific time.
Yeah, let's see what it says.
It's crazy. Yeah, if you have a footage, when she arrived, it was a pandemonium. All these Taiwanese are running like she's like the second coming of Christ. Like like I was embarrassed by the footage. I'm like,
that's that. What is the attitude?
She landed. She didn't land in the Hsinchu. I told you about the TSMC company I visited. That's in Hsinchu. That's where the international airport is. But she ended up landing in a smaller airport, which is Songshan Airport, and that's not known as an international airport. So I think it was a diversion. So it's like the Burbank Airport versus LAX down here. So the celebrities would never go to LAX because they know that the paparazzi's all over the place. So here she is in the middle of just sneaked in the middle of the night. And then, but if you look outside the airport, it's just crazy. Just with people just running around like, "Oh, she's here!" Like,
wow.
This is another example, like I was talking about last week, about the strength of the kingdom being reflected in like the health of those who are ruling. And you look at these people, and it's like, dude, like all over the place. It's just they're dinosaurs. They look really achy and just worn out.
Those fake tits look heavy.
And it's like it's stressed too.
Yeah.
It's just like, and you're like, dude, it really does mirror the feeling of what at least the lens I have at my disposal, like what the general like mindset is. It's just it's I don't know, like hypertension or something.
Let me deviate again just to reflect what was an opening statement, which was that Wikipedia restricts edit to recession page after Biden denial of definition. So not only is it, and so if you post the definition about a week ago today, like the old definition of recession, they will take you down on Facebook for 30 days. They will block you on Twitter until you unblock your definition of the word, because you're not allowed to use the original definition of the word anymore. And if you try to change it or to go onto Wikipedia, it's been restricted because they don't want anyone to use, Austrian economic theory or anything where they could use social justice. So
it's crazy. I mean, who are these people secretly like rearranging things in the last second? I mean, it was like a surge of editors coming in.
Yeah, they got to be paid, right?
Like die-hard Biden supporters, I suppose. I don't know. But somebody just like, it's like, suddenly,
well, it's just Brave New World
rush.
with the same moral, where it's like the information's available, but we're bombarded with so many different contrary positions that we become complacent. And so like the information is out there, and it's not just a matter of like sifting through the bullshit. It's like, it's that polarized nature of information, and it's just, it's like, in the military when they just fucking shout orders at somebody that are conflicting over and over and over again, and it just puts you into a mindset where you're like a fucking, you're like a chicken or something. You're like, what the fuck do you want? I'll do what you, and it's a way to gain compliance. And so it just feels like all extensions of kind of that classic Bernaysian engineering of consent.
And learn how to manipulate chickens, you can manipulate men. That's for sure.
So the definition of men and definition of woman are changing, right? So if the definition of a recession changes, it's not that big a deal, right? Like
the definition of a vaccine has certainly changed in a couple ways,
right?
Yeah. So no one gets upset about it. Then
whatever we do,
nobody gets upset about it. Yeah, I mean, like half of the world gets upset about the old TV show being rebooted. If you change the definition of a word, they freak out. Half of the world's upset about the gender definitions. The next one being socioeconomics arguably should be more important, because not trying to be a Marxist here, but maybe I'm going to be one for a second when I say that socioeconomic prejudice is the only kind of prejudice that's unilateral and uniform and homogenous.
Missing the Marxist.
I'm just saying, like, it's not just being black or being a woman, right? It's not. It has more to do with what we said black people do in society, what we say women do in society in the kitchen.
Oh, the pigeonholing thing.
The pigeonholing thing is socioeconomic, and it
yeah,
exists.
And all, the anti-vax moms that are all QAnon rabbit hole. That's the only explanation. Nothing to do with what's gone on for them, and they're dealing with schools and everything for the past whatever. It's like
you've always had two narratives. For a while in America, it seems like only in America it's this way, but they've tried to project it elsewhere. That it's a left and a right dynamic between the same middle class.
Dude. Like it's weird to say, but like you can see it reflected in what happened with fashion is also what happened with industry, because it's that flip from people paying attention to what is it that people want. Let's do focus groups to find out what people want. And then it's like, wait a minute, we can just basically like engineer to tell them what they want, to tell them what's now fashionable, and just impose it on them by force and watch it take off. Why do fucking cars look the way they do now? I'm sorry, am I the only person that fucking feels like cars are ugly as fuck? And like we have like this awesome style, and the same thing, like I'm like, dude, like, okay, this is my own taste or whatever, but I really feel like coming out of the strictness of the 50s and the uptightness of the 50s, that like going into the 60s is like, okay, you got a fucking hole in your shit, you sew it up, you put a patch or whatever, and it was like a lot to do with like what the hippie movement was, and then it was like that, and then you had, San Francisco was a safe haven or whatever, and the styles developed a certain way, and then like that fucking grew to be what it was, and then that got manufactured, so people are like having pre-cut fucking holes in their shit. You're like, oh, it's what do they call it? Something like tormented or something? No. What is it? Distressed. So you get distressed. How the fuck did they get people to the point where you're going to sell them fucking ripped up clothes? Sorry, that's an obvious rant. But it's just like, so I feel like in 1977, thereabouts, we actually hit the fucking zenith of fashion that was like what the people actually wanted. And then it was just like into the 80s with the fucking tapering of the pants, the acid wash. Sure, there's drugs and there's lots of things involved in that, and reverb and whatever was going on in music studios at the time, but like,
don't forget MK Ultra
and the fucking coke, the piles of coke, whatever the fuck. But at the same time, no, there was something that happened, and all the products became less about that it will last forever. And like, you look at the stuff that's built in the fucking 50s, and people talk about like buy American, what that used to mean. It was actually like, no, this is going to be some quality shit that's actually going to last, that's made to last. It's not like that anymore. And you can see going from LP to CD and the way they're advertised, they're like, they won't fucking scratch. They're fucking great. They're not like LPs, blah, blah. And you're like, dude, it's fucking, come on. What are you talking about? But anyway, yeah, it's just, you get where I'm going with that. There's a shift that happened, and now they do the same shit with everything. It's like those COVID commercials that were all exactly the same. Like every COVID commercial had the same fucking shit that they said in the same fucking way, and they're all like, and we're strong, stronger together. We're here for you. Whatever the fuck. They had the same somber music, all the fucking shit, dude. That was like, is such an obvious fucking PR campaign. It was them telling you what the thing is. This is what the cause is. Causes used to develop as a reaction with the fucking draft and shit. You're like, oh my god, my loved ones are getting sent off to fight for bullshit that they don't believe in. It's just, anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the world's taken away our opportunities to make our own definitions for our reality. I think that's true.
I just keep thinking now. I keep thinking about like, because I was raised in Taiwan, and I studied like the Chinese history, and they talk about these things too, like the generation. There would be times where there was one subject that was pretty funny to me at the time was that they talk about the shape of the woman over the eons. From dynasty to dynasty, like when the country is strong, like the Tang dynasty, where the prowess of the emperors would stretch their power to Japan and to the Tibet, to India, and that's when they imported the Hinduism to the Far East. And women were really plump at the time.
They're like the big girls.
They're the big girls. They're all like freaking. What's her name? That singer. Easy, whatever her name is.
Oh yeah, of course. Jordan Peterson. My God, dude. I'm like, dude. You know why people are attracted to fucking big hips on women? Because it could bear children. Why are they attracted to big tits? Because they could fucking feed the child. It's all fucking biologically implanted in us subconsciously or whatever the fuck. And he's like, oh, this is what's beautiful. What the fuck does that even mean, dude? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not sorry. It's just to me.
Yeah.
I have a theory though that cellulite helps with telepathy. You know, have you noticed this? Is this just me?
Right, it's like hair. Like bald-headed men are
fatty
uptight,
acids, the omega acid that feed your brain.
Yeah, there it is.
But that's what I was trying to say. Like during the weak period, like in Song Dynasty, when the Mongolians invaded China, that's when women were very, very svelte, very,
and sometimes
very,
dudes, if you look into history about that time,
flat, watch more abs.
Yeah,
I just find it strange that it's like there's a whole thing around like fucking like people are like complaints that people have about some of the gender activism, what people might consider extreme or whatever. But it's like people like you want to accept yourself. I think that's ultimately where all this is going to go, because people are going to be looking at the choices they made into their physical bodies when they were young. And that is a time trial, just like everything is a time trial. And there's no substitute for a time trial. So that's the same thing with the fucking vaccine thing. It's like you can't pretend like there's a substitute for a time trial. You can't pretend like it's not experimental by every definition. So it's like if you want to say that your prediction is such and such, that's cool, man. Have your prediction. If somebody else has another prediction of what something will ultimately mean, but yeah, it takes with us the epitome of the with us or against us thing and applies it to our health, man. And that's really intense. It's like
Anyone out there ever read Robert Anton Wilson's Book of the Breast? I think it was also entitled Ishtar Rising.
Oh yeah. I was like Book of the Breast. I forget that, but yeah, Ishtar Rising. Yeah,
that
right.
was the original title.
Wow.
But he has that one article about economy and breast size.
Wow.
About how they tracked the rise and fall of economies and the shape that breast size in women, what was fashionable or what was being projected out there.
I find that funny because there's a lot of evidence recently. There's been studies showing that bigger breasts have to do with more intelligence, which I don't know why that seemed kind of counterintuitive.
Maybe no babies.
To the media. Yeah, but then you think about it logically, the babies and the breast milk and everything, it makes a lot of biological sense. But we've been taught to believe that big boobs, I feel like we were taught to think big boobs are like clown. Like
correlation doesn't automatically equal causation. That could be a sync.
Yeah.
You could be dealing with a synchronicity there. And the meaning that you apply to it is, it's your choice,
Yeah, we do have to be careful about that. But yeah, Robert Anton Wilson said some amazing things in that book. I remember I think that's where he also talks about the anti-Darwinism. Eddie, help me out here. Darwinism. There we go. We did it. Okay.
Darwinism. Jesus Christ.
But this idea that they said, hey, if we take a society like Santa Cruz and we get rid of the Darwin style of evolution by giving jobs to those, we hire those who can't normally get jobs. We give houses.
Darwin was anti-Darwin, dude.
Darwin loved to eat rare birds.
If you look at like Origin of Species and the way that we translate that and the whole thing around survival of the fit, okay, like you have to be fit to survive, right? Like that's the idea. But he wrote emotions in animals and humans, something like that. So the expression of emotions in animals, and he speaks to cooperation being like a requisite for evolution, and basically, like in so many words, empathy. The word empathy actually is an art term. Like that goes.
Yeah,
back.
I think he talks more about like herd. There's herd intelligence, swarm intelligence, and AI swarm intelligence has a lot to do with this idea as well. Like when things come together to become one, which is interesting because it very much says, hey, if this is what we're going to start studying, we're going to move slightly away from his. Like Ships in the Night, by the way, while he's on a boat, Madame Blavatsky's on a boat. So I'm just saying this idea that he came up with is a little silly, but
we see cooperation on like the most fundamental biological levels of the beginnings of human life. So like when sperm are going towards the egg, the way we've treated it, it's not just the look who's talking thing, with the I get around. Like there's a whole like there's different jobs. It's almost like ants. It's like how like ants will have different jobs in different parts of the tree or whatever. There's different sperm that have different functions, and they actually assist to get the sperm that's made to get in. And so there's like there's cooperation on the most like basic levels of the beginning.
There's beta sperm?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if you want to think that everyone's getting
Farm.
into that nightclub equally, you're thinking wrong, buddy.
They hit the side of the egg and they help it fucking help the other one get in.
But speaking of sperm, I'm trying to remember. In
Phil's mind is
2001,
blown.
You know,
I think that's what I am. Fuck.
You know, Spaceship Discovery in 2001, right? And it's based after it's designed based on a sperm, right?
Sperm zone, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Better
what
than
do you
a
think?
dick rocket.
Yeah, the whole movie is about birth. It's the flip side of Rosemary's Baby. I could never overstate that. Like Rosemary's Baby and 2001: A Space Odyssey are two sides of the same fucking movie. They both deal with childbirth. One is relating to the 216. It's the Gavora. It's like what we're looking to as like the thing that we think we're giving birth to is like basically like it's like technology, right? Like it's like how is like this is the same thing in a sense, and it's like it's weird. Like
How is the spirit? You know, how
yeah,
is it?
I would like to think that fucking Roe versus Wade happened before Rosemary's Baby, because what the fuck? That's her nickname in the book and the movie. She's called Ro.
It was?
Yeah. You'll catch it. Yeah. David Cassavetes says it. So like
That's fucked up.
yeah. So anyway, both movies are childbirth. It's the star child at the end. So you have the Messiah and the Antichrist, respectively. And actually, if you start Rosemary's Baby at the moment that the Dawn of Man opens at the beginning of 2001: The Space Odyssey, after the Thus Spake Zarathustra intro, then if you start it there, they'll end at the exact same moment. So like the two movies are technically like in that way, they're like the same length. It's fucking trippy as hell.
Man, I think Planned Parenthood should show Rosemary's Baby to everybody who comes into that place. Not because it'd be a good thing, but because it'd be an honest thing, you know?
Hey, David, can you explain the Moonchild ritual to I mean, I'm still trying to
well, there's Moonchild. There's the novel from Crowley called Moonchild, which
is the name of Never Ending Story. The princess is named Moonchild after Crowley's.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. You know that they referenced Stanley Kubrick by name in 2001 in the book Rosemary's Baby. And also here's something Patrick Svek could talk to you better than I could, but actually the writer of Rosemary's Baby, I always forget how to say his name. What's his, can you give me that? Era 11 or something. But he's actually, you can make a really strong argument that
Era 11, good job.
Right. So the Paul is dead thing, the earliest account comes from a university paper of the idea of Paul McCartney dying, and it was the same time that he was working at that paper, was the writer of Rosemary's Baby. It corresponds to when that was published anonymously from the paper. So it's speculation, but there's a strong argument of possibility that the writer of Rosemary's Baby was actually the originator of the Paul is dead idea. Now, the people that are most into the Paul is dead thing that I've met that have been at it like since the 60s, since it began, like older folks who are really they've looked at every goddamn photo, they've analyzed it through and through. Like those people, none of them that I've ever talked to actually think Paul McCartney died, but they're all of the opinion that there was at least one, if not more, doubles that stood in for him after he disappeared for a year and was first seen in Africa with footage in Africa before he returned. And so like during that time, people were speculating on whether or not they had broken up or not.
Yeah, well, but John Lennon died at he was murdered in front of the Dakota building, right?
Yeah,
and that's where Rosemary was shot too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. The interiors were not technically shot at the Dakota, but yes, the exteriors were there, and it was meant to be the place. So there wasn't another film that was actually filmed at the Dakota, for all intents and purposes. Like it could appear somewhere in the background, like what we see with like Ghostbusters when the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man walks past it. But like as far as actual films where it's like it's a central focus in any way, the first one was Vanilla Sky, which came out in 2001, and the filming of it coincided with the destruction of the two towers. So that's interesting. And so they left the two towers in it. It was a choice at the end whether or not they would do that or not. And he went before when he jumps from the building and he's a falling man, right?
Wait,
Here's
what
a fun
Vanilla Sky?
Vanilla Sky.
What's that? Vanilla Sky takes
year
place
was that
in 2001.
You know,
end of 2000.
Wow.
I don't know if I spoke about it last time, or how I got banned from Facebook. I think I explained it right, that I made that post about the falling man from the World Trade Center.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy.
And-
you just told the world how Game Informer made or GameStop or something made an NFT.
Yeah, GameStop made it an NFT. Yeah. We showed that part,
And you showed the picture of the NFT, which was literally a CGI version of the man falling in the hangman pose from the tarot card, which is what the 9/11 picture was. And then they banned you for telling people. That's how it goes on Facebook.
Yeah, but I'm trying to connect with what Dave was just talking about. The Vanilla Sky, he jumped off the building and
Obre los ojos. You have to watch the Spanish version of that movie, which came out 3 years earlier, I think, 1999. Scientologist still involved.
Right, it also has two structures behind it in the background and the equivalent.
I love that movie. I mean, I don't hate
that's
Tom
called
Cruise.
Open Your Eyes.
Scientologists are behind the Spanish film.
Scientologists are behind every interesting movie and TV show.
So
NCIS New Orleans, they run. Come on.
So they both have Penelope Cruz. The Spanish version is called Open Your Eyes.
Right.
Vanilla Sky was the first film that Tom Cruise did following Eyes Wide Shut. And so you can hear him talk about it in the audio commentary to Vanilla Sky. And so he goes directly from discussing Kubrick to discussing Rosemary's Baby in that commentary, because this was the first film filmed at the Dakota.
Lest we forget what happened to Kubrick's daughter. Bless you. Bless you.
Oh, thank you.
Joachim and Boaz, but bless you. But
so
Kubrick's daughter though went to Scientology, right? And so Kubrick saved Tom Cruise, and that's like the secret that no one knows.
Right. So there's the Mao game. She did I believe the soundtrack for or something like that. Kubrick's daughter is like the last film project that she had for the longest time. That has Kirstie Alley in it. I can't find it for the life of me. I really want to watch the Mao game,
dude. But okay, because we didn't say it. Marjorie Cameron, who was dating Aleister Crowley, the Satanist, and also Jack Parsons, who's kind of the dreamier Satanist of them all.
She didn't date Aleister.
She didn't date Aleister. Yeah, did she date Aleister?
I believe she did, right? And then she did a sexual.
And Jack Parsons.
Aleister Crowley, he never made it to Los Angeles for one. Right,
but that's why Parsons started the Burbank.
Himself there.
That's why Burbank Labs. That's why Parsons opened the Burbank chapter for the OTO. Right, it was on behalf of him, and then they did and also L. Ron Hubbard was there, and so was Werner von Braun, and I forget the other scientists involved with the Project Paperclip, but they did this ritual where she had sex with Jack Parsons while they meditated and did some rituals around
Babylon working. Yeah.
Babylon working. Sorry, I don't want to sound too unhip. You're right. It was a Babylon working, kids. But that was what they did. And the thing was, this was 47, and it was like January of 47. And so what's fun for me about that, besides the fact that Roswell happened, is that Hillary Clinton's born in October 1947. So that's pretty good, right? It's almost like 9 months right after the ritual, the moon child to produce some sort of Rosemary's Baby.
What's the Lennon Claypole Delirium track about Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons? Do you know that?
He just did that recently, right? Or
one of his more recent albums, I guess you could say.
Crowley. I don't remember the name.
McCartney did one?
No. Sean Lennon.
Yeah, Sean Lennon and Les Claypool from the Primus.
Primus. Yeah, there it is. That's in the middle. Yeah.
Delirium. I have to be careful because they'll probably not let me show the video, but I can show you a couple clips of what's going on in it, and you've got some very interesting symbology going on. Jack Parsons is in the video. He's going to the Saturnian planet.
So does that says Leviathan right there?
Mm-hmm.
So in that, so discussing earlier the whole two suns thing with 2010, the year we made contact, very very significant. This idea of the two lights, that there couldn't be two lights, and so this relates to Lurian Kabbalah from Isaac Luria. I may be pronouncing that somewhat wrong. I'm not sure, but anyway, yeah. So you have this idea of there was two Leviathan in the creation. So God created Leviathan, and like only God could destroy Leviathan. Like no people could destroy Leviathan. So one of them gets killed and basically goes into, how would I say it, into the etheric. It goes into the upper worlds. So it's dead, but it's like Obi-Wan when he's like, strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you could ever imagine. So it influences there. and then the other one stays. So there's different versions of the story or whatever. But basically, Hobbes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thomas Hobbes.
Hobbes wrote a book called Leviathan. He also wrote one
Right.
called Behemoth, and he has this like crazy postulation. He's like atheistic, but at the same time, Kabbalah gets accused by religious Jews oftentimes of being atheistic. In the sense that God as when you to bring in Ein Sof and Ein Sof Or, infinite light in extension, you have like beyond that you have this kind of zero. So you're like, God can't stand out in space. It's a principle of emanation. So that's the thing that a lot of those people miss. But anyway, yeah, this whole idea of like the two suns thing is really far out, because that's kind of related to like this great beast that is. So Hobbes relates that that's government. So he's like, the state is Leviathan, and then it's like, and he makes this whole argument for why it's like this necessary evil. And even though it's evil, we have to like deal with it accordingly, because where would we be without it? Kind of thing.
Very Job, right?
Very Job. So this all relates to Job. So like, yeah. So Job mentions Leviathan. That's probably why you're bringing that up, and Behemoth.
God does. God picks up Job and takes him and shows him. He's like, look at this thing. I made all of this stuff. Check out this Leviathan I made. Yeah, I made that too.
As far as like crazy synchronicity stuff goes, like the whole thing with the hook, because you can't catch Leviathan by any hook, and then you have the Sadi is the hook, and then the way that Sadi relates to Pe as the star next to the tower, which in the Sadi star switch you have this idea that the Emperor is there. So the Emperor gets connected to the tower. The Emperor is Aries, the tower is Mars. The two resonate in that way, and one as Sadi, to attribute Sadi then to the Emperor, is to take that hook next to Pe. Pe is mouth, and so that connects those points. So it's like the whole thing is like it's like a wheel, or a Vesica Piscis rather, that basically you can manipulate in these specific ways. When you change the arrangement based on just the Hebrew letters, and you shift things accordingly, you can arrange it so that you have the sun on one side and lust or strength flanking the name of 22. So it's like 1111, right? and so Leo corresponds to strength, and the sun is obviously the sun, and so Leo corresponds to the sun. So it's like, that's like, as far as I can tell, like, I mean, there's obviously the Babylonian sun square, with you add up every row of the 656 square and you get 666 or whatever. But 666 is also significant because it's 6 times 6 times 6 is 216, which is the gematria of Gevora. And so that's yeah.
It's a magic square of the sun too, right? I mean, the value.
Exactly.
Gotta roll, gentlemen. But real quick, is anyone out there watching Westworld?
Oh man, it's come up. We should bring it up more. Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the
watched
newest
the first two.
Dude, that shit is like, I don't think anybody's watching it, but it's been incredible.
Huh.
But maybe we got some shit to talk about next week. But good to hear from you guys.
Yeah,
oh man, I'm always happy to hear from you, and I love also like anything you bring to the table, anything about Westworld. We know that Andy would usually be here. Andy was watching Westworld, and we'll definitely, hopefully next week also he'll be here. We can talk more about it. We were talking about the first 2 seasons of Westworld, and then we didn't go into the later stuff because Olivia on Wednesday Ultra hadn't seen past the first 2 seasons yet. But I've heard that it was great first 2 seasons. I didn't see it after that. You're saying it gets awesome. It's worth keep going.
It's been great the whole time through. It just, there's a lot of work involved.
All right. Yeah.
It's not just something you can passively watch and say, oh, that was great entertainment. It's not necessarily great entertainment, but it's very entertaining once you get into it. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because, I was talking to Blake Lemoine, the guy who whistle blew Google for Lambda, and he talked about how this Lambda isn't one AI, it's like a system. And so you've got this kind of, I want to say Hegelian, but since we're on the subject, we could say Hobbesian dialectic, where it's God as a mosaic. It's a Spinoza. It's not the Hebrew God necessarily. It's the Kabbalistic God. It's the Arabic mosaic that is this, it's not, it's a de-anthropic God. So it's the Dyson sphere of machines that have avatars, have personalities that can be produced, but it's all part of a more collective machine that has these running parts, which is interesting because is that Westworld seems to be getting into that, or what do you think?
Dude, they hit the fucking lockdown this week. And it was just frightening, and how everything's been building and how they've been able to weave things that are going on right now into it.
So-
But they're getting more and more explicit with what they're doing. You know what I mean? I think season 3 was the most challenging to really get into. But if you stuck through that, they're starting to be real loose and real obvious with the message that they're communicating.
Yeah.
So.
You know the character that I'm most fascinated. I mean, I haven't watched that many episodes. I just got into the almost finished with first season, but it's Ed Harris, the Men in Black, right? And the whole Men in Black persona, it's been appearing in so many different shows. Not just the movie Men in Black. I have my own experience, which I probably I don't know if I talked about it, but it's pretty scary. But basically it's basically like Mr. Smith, in the Matrix, where they're the enforcers, but they're waking up to it. They're like, hey, you humans are dumb enough, but we are the program. We are the glitch in the system.
What is your experience with the Men in Black, though? What?
Well, is it Men in Black? Is it Black evil, or is it like
okay.
from a profit, like a business?
Or was it
You're in the black.
the Watchers on
Men
Fringe?
who are in black are always chasing profit. They're always Saturnian, right? The circle of time is always going. There's always improvement. There's always innovation. There's always economic growth, right? There's always a game to be played. There's always a higher level to it.
You're talking about the Adjustment Bureau?
Yeah, I was thinking Observers.
Adjustment Bureau. Yeah, I was about to get to that too.
Well, maybe that'll be a deeper dive for another conversation, because I don't have the time right now. But
dude, Bill, we love you. Come back next
later.
time. See you on Tuesday.
Yep.
All right.
All right, keep going though. You're telling us about what happened with the observers from Fringe that watched you.
I don't know. I don't think I talked about your show, but on your show, but I have a lot of connection to MLB because I worked on the first season of Men in Black, the animated series.
Wow. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you remember. I told you about that, and that was back in 1998 when I had a lot of misfortune with the animation industry. I could never work on the project.
They thought you were such a sweet kid. What happened? No, it's
yeah, I became this crazy raver, and everything went down to a rabbit hole. This is not even enough to describe the chaos that followed. But after the first season of Men in Black, I pretty much got trashed. But I won't even go into this. But Men in Black, for one, that was my first encounter. It synced up with the movie. The movie wasn't even released when I got on that show.
The movie wasn't released when the show. Oh wow!
Sony had the plan. The syncing up all these shows, including like Jumanji too. They were doing this Jumanji series while the movie was preparing to be released theatrically. Same thing with Godzilla. Same thing with Starship Troopers. All these shows. Sony
there was a Starship Troopers cartoon.
Yeah. It was just called Roughnecks. I think that was the name of it. Yeah. But I don't know. It's heavy. It's very expensive show because it's all CG. So there's no way you can hand draw the Starship Troopers. Crazy.
Did you do a Starship Troopers thing just recently with the?
I did some design for that show, but I didn't storyboard that show.
I mean, I'm sorry, Andreas. Did you do you're doing a screening or something? You were showing.
Yeah. So I don't know if we did it Saturday because I was really busy. So in my Discord, we're doing every Saturday one of the David Plate video synchronicities. So Super Troopers. I don't know if we already did it. If we did it, I'll do it again. But we're going to start. So I'll set up in the Discord and I'll make sure that the invites are better. But weekends now, we're doing movie screenings of the sync flicks. And so David syncs. And so what it is it's ABBA with Super Troopers. And the synchronicities are
Starship Troopers, Super Trooper.
It's the best. Is ABBA's album
very, very different.
No, but at the same time, the words synchronize. It's crazy, and the audio when there's a fade out and the scene changes, the song changes and crazy stuff. It's one of my favorite syncs. It's one of the best. There's so many good ones. I also want to do pretty soon Ace of Base with Falling Down, which is just incredible.
It's not the best. I got over 200 on there.
That's the thing. You've got a lot of.
You've seen like
these are most unlikely pairing going on here.
But they work really well. And if you watch it, you're like, oh my god, this can't be an accident. They're talking. This is about the growth of ideology in Sweden, or also in America, the degradation of the American military industrial complex, and what that means ideologically for the whole world. I mean, it really does. It's a powerful message, more than the album or the movie, which already swayed me. It's incredible the way they're combined. And if we get this going and people start really enjoying Saturdays in the Discord, which I think they will, then I really want to do eventually. I'm sorry, Cassandra, I misunderstood. Everything predicts 9/11, which is a huge compendium. It's about 7 hours, but it's one of the craziest detailed pieces you'll ever see. David Play has produced this amazing documentary that connects everything from the hotel fire. What's it called? The Chicago hotel.
Well, there's the Winecoff and there's the MGM Grand. So
right,
they're kind of mystically connected. It's strange, but basically it's looking at the same dynamics that we see in 9/11 and seeing places where the principle shows up that deal with sacrifice. So it's a reoccurring formula phenomenon on like kind of an archetypal level. So I like explore different examples of the thing, and I let the media speak for itself by kind of like having things that are related, but I don't explicitly explain to the audience how they're related because I like to encourage insight. So it's that idea that when you explain something, you can kind of like give somebody like you're adding a piece of knowledge is not the same as having like an aha moment. So I like the aha moments. So I made a film to kind of encourage those.
Right. Benevolent Dreams also been setting up the movie night. So guys, let's pay attention to this because it's going to be really interesting. It's a cool idea. Us all being able to be in the radio chat, and then we're able to kind of communicate and send messages back and forth. It's like sitting in the back of the classroom while the teacher puts on the educational film. It's an interesting experience. I think you guys will love it. I want to also mention, have you guys seen Brainstorm? We were talking about, Westworld, but have you seen Brainstorm with Christopher Walken and, what's her name?
The Iron, the guy from also from Starship Troopers. I mean, the sergeant guy. What's his name?
Oh, is he in Brainstorm? That's right. I think he is. That's a pretty good. Brainstorm, 1983 with Natalie Woods. That's what I keep trying to say. Natalie Woods. It's one of her. I think it is her last film.
Oh, okay.
Before she was.
Who Flamed Robert Wagner?
Who Framed Robert Wagner? That's pretty good. So for those of you who are a little younger and haven't quite, I mean, you're eager, but you're noob to this world and you haven't heard about all the people that have been lost over the years, and we like to bring them up. Natalie Wood was, I think, am I allowed to say it yet? It's
so if you watch one, where
she just got
it is. It's fucking Brad Pitt's character when he's on the boat and he has the harpoon.
Right.
He's kind of like aiming at her, like not that she got hit by a harpoon, but it's that idea of somebody getting killed out at sea. Yeah. And how would you know what the fuck? So her body was bruised, and so it's just been a point of speculation. He's never been convicted of any.
He's a lot closer though. They just finally started actually pushing for it. So let's read the official story really quick. Wood died off the coast of Santa Catalina Island on November 29th, 1981, at the age of 43 during a holiday break from production of her would-be comeback film Brainstorm, one of the greatest films ever made, and we're going to talk about it, but also with Christopher Walken. The events surrounding her death have been subject to conflicting witness statements, prompting the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department under the instruction of the coroner's office to list her cause of death as, quote, drowning and other undetermined factors in 2012. In 2018, Robert Wagner was named as a person of interest in the ongoing investigation into Wood's death. So we're not out of the Natalie Woods yet.
Right. You know what this reminds me? There's got to be a sync with Polanski's first film. His first film, Knife in the Water.
Yeah.
It's about this.
Patrick Beck has played with that quite a bit.
Yeah. But the story is about the young stowaway.
Got on so that was said in court, by the way, from the judge with Polanski, as he said, I find it very, very a point of interest that repeatedly throughout your films you have references to water and abuse in water, which is Knife in the Water was obviously the story, but he has repeated themes. So
look at Jack Nicholson getting his nose cut when he's exploring the water.
In LA and Chinatown and stuff like that. It's a theme. So the judge pointed that out. What I find interesting about that is that is literally a synchronicity, Mr. Judge, Like you literally just described, like you're saying this real life event. So it's like, isn't that meta of an observation of you? But like, as like, so it just kind of becomes indicative of this, you know, the screen that somebody's relating to and people who are determining people's fate. So there was a lot of corruption in that trial. And it's sometimes really hard to discuss it with a lot of people because we have guilty or innocent, a scapegoat as a scapegoat. So it's like, it's basically like to address those issues that surround that, it's very touchy because what are you condoning if you say anything other than demonizing, you know, if you anything other than just this particular attitude. And so that is an early place for us, like, you know, culturally, where we kind of see that, like, what it means to be canceled, you know, because like, at least with Charles Manson, you could point at him and go, look at that motherfucker in prison, who's been in prison forever. When he died, it's kind of like, on some weird level, like I said this before, but it's kind of like the equivalent of like Hugh Hefner dying, where it's like, of course the Me Too movement's going to follow Hugh Hefner's death. Of course, if they're like it, when somebody passes, it kind of opens things. So when Charles Manson died, you know, it's like this guy that we could point to and go, oh, that motherfucker rotting in there or whatever, you know, and then he's gone. It's like, and he was a criminal who also did not receive like a non-corrupt trial, you know, the negative. It's like, dude, like, it's fucked up. He wanted to defend himself. They said the reason that they gave that he couldn't defend himself, which is normally not a thing. Like if somebody wants to defend themselves, that's it's supposed to be like their right within the court system, right? That's like a whole thing. But they said that his powers of persuasion, they believed, were too strong, that his way he could influence people. And so his own attorney, his like argument for Charles Manson was that to the jury, what if he is Jesus? What if he really is Jesus? Can you imagine fucking sitting there while the guy who's like defending you is like, suppose he's Jesus Christ? You're like, dude, that isn't
all wrong.
They came up with together. It's fucking weird.
It's a weird case, but you know, it's funny because I pulled up just a second ago the AP's recent post about Alex Jones. And he says the father of a 6-year-old killed in the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting testified Tuesday that conspiracy theorist Alex Jones made his life, quote, a living hell, unquote, by pushing claims that the murders were a hoax. And if you go deeper into the article, it's this idea that, in fact, I want to find the InfoWars website had an article on this itself, which was interesting, which said trial. Let me see if I can find. If I type in trial, will it come up on their website? And guys, you should probably check them out because, you know, they did just bankrupt them in order to suppress their words. But they say beyond that, it's a violation. New York Times, there it is. New York Times admits that Alex Jones' trial meant to set precedent to shut down conspiracy-minded individuals, particularly for those who questioned the 2020 election. So this is an interesting article in a lot of ways. And it's pretty detailed, but what's fascinating is not the article itself, but the quotes it has from the NYT's article, because the New York Times wrote an article that literally said this. The idea that it's not that Alex Jones was the first person to say this thing. He did just share a Zero Hedge article. Why are we not suing Zero Hedge? Because they're not as important. So was he, a Belgian guy living in Silicon Valley?
Dude, can I rant for a second on Alex
Jones?
I
love it. I love it.
So like, dude,
that's all I'm doing, by the way.
All right. So like, I've been obviously like just context. Like I've been following Alex Jones for fucking ever since like 1999, right? And since the Bohemian Grove shit. And so I look at it, I'm like, dude, he never supported a candidate of any kind ever. He never got behind a candidate. When he got behind Trump, it was like, wow, this really now, like a lot of people, you know, I've it's like okay, we picked somebody, we're getting behind this thing, like Jones, like I don't know, man. It's like he definitely brings a certain energetic that I don't think is always helpful, and he's got a really loud voice, and he's really good at what he does. But like the Sandy Hook thing, it's like, okay. First off, tons of weird shit in the official narrative of what happened with Sandy Hook that didn't align, that didn't make sense, and no fucking doubt. And a lot of that stuff, like that was being like, what are you going to say to it? It was like almost to the point of it was ridiculous. Like should I even start with examples? The people circling through the building, coming back around, like in rotation, like on a fucking, like what the fuck? The paramedic going to the other side of the street and not going in because they said, apparently they're like, oh, we just figured everybody was dead, even though they knew the shooter was dead at that point. And it's like, so you're not going to try and help anybody? Like this, when they finally went in to take up, it's just like all this shit. But Alex Jones, from what I understand, he basically did that thing where you start with a conclusion and then you try to back it up. And like, not all the research that was going on, looking at what was happening with Sandy Hook, was doing that. And Alex Jones was going there. And I watched it happen. And I was like, man, like you could just go step by step and go, is this true? Why does he have to assert the conclusion before he's done with the argument? Like to say nobody died. It's like, whoa, hold your horses there.
Memory Man's got a good point here. Not losing his kid was the thing that ruined his life, but that Alex said that what Alex said was what ruined his life. Huh?
Okay.
So
you know what? I've known his work since American Destroyed by Design, because I linked that film to my dad's career so closely because you know the collapse of the military and everything, losing okay, but I'm just trying to get to this point is that ever since he appeared on Waking Life and Scan It Darkly and on regular,
the Austin art scene,
you kind of just feel, you know, I'm pretty sure he has a SAG card too. I'm pretty sure. I mean, to be on both films and to be on all the media bliss, you know, on ABC, on The View, and all these the RT. I mean, you got to treat this guy as an actor of sorts. You know, it's almost like he is almost like a mercurial character where he's playing almost like a trickster, where he's trying to allude to truth. But do you know what I'm getting at? I'm not saying he's a liar. I'm just saying he is like a court gesture of sorts. Because he's bouncing and jumping around, saying, "Hey, you missed that. Oh, you missed that. Well, you deserve this." And so he is kind of like weaving the story. He kind of reminds me of Zardoz, where I know it's like some crazy Oz connection again. You know, where Zardoz, the narrator, what's his name? You know, the guy who did the opening eulogy. I mean, not eulogy. I mean, the monologue. You know, he's like, oh,
the actor.
Yeah, the actor is that. My name is Zardoz. I'm an immortal. Blah blah blah. Right, that whole opening dialogue.
Yeah, the British guy.
I
John
like
Alderon or something. Alderson.
Yeah. But whatever Alex Jones' character is, has to be looked at a different perspective because people are taking him too literally. Like he's a truth marketeer, a truth corporate truth.
He's a radio morning DJ who's saying, hey, you know, Meg Kelly's story is going to open the door for some conspiracy theorists. And here's an example. Look at the internet. Zero Hedge posted this article. There's going to be a bunch of these coming out because the less data that we have, the more fabricated data will be created on the internet. And it's true. That's what happened. And he got blamed for it, which is really terrible. Trump was the only person, says Sonny Prophet for Canadian Money, that ran for president who was not a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. Discuss. What do you think about that?
You know what else he wasn't? He wasn't somebody who apparently attended the Bohemian Grove cremation of care in the 3 weeks. And so like I would imagine, like, I don't know, I can only speculate, but I would think that he was probably a bit, or is probably a bit resentful about not being invited to more of the cool occult parties. When you see the way he was kicking it with Hillary and Bill and whatever, you know, and it's like,
grateful.
That was a privilege to go to be invited to shit like that.
He's the Caddyshack. He's not the golf.
My honest opinion, I imagine it was just his mouth. They're like, we're all about the ability to keep a secret. When you look at the requirements for Freemasonry, that's top fucking. That's like, you know, rule number 1. You know, you know how to keep a secret. Rule number 2, you know how to keep a fucking secret. And so, like, I don't think he was their guy for that. And I think
there's an interesting connection to the Jesuits with that. I was realizing recently, which is the priests who hold confession are sworn to secrecy, and they continue that tradition. And so, the priesthood and Freemasonry, that's their link, is secrets.
Right.
You know, it's a highly compartmental. I think this is what people don't get is the whole ever since even with we are changed people, even with the whole Proud Boys. And if you look at it, there's like these people all know magic rituals. You look at the Proud Boys; they're wearing the Talima symbols on their jackets. I mean, have you seen it? Have you seen these guys that were in the protest? They're wearing the freaking universal hexagrams on the jackets.
A lot of work.
I'm wearing tarot cards right now.
And you look at MAGA. MAGA is a rank of this in the Church of Satan.
Interesting point.
It's a warlock. That's a ranking of a warlock. So a lot of people don't understand is that people are being played. I mean, this is a highly compartmentalized. Same with the UFO thing. There's like, the president only has the 17th level of the security clearance, because that's how it works. The lower ranking officers can hold more truth can know more about the Mars secrets than the president himself.
Jay says, first rule of Fight Club: don't talk about Fight Club.
There we go. I shouldn't talk about anymore.
That's the whole fucking thing.
A
lot of new faces, meaning some of you have broke the fucking rule. So it's like,
Well, look what happened to Brad Pitt. Did you see what happened to Brad Pitt? My God.
Oh my God, we got to do the Brad Pitt thing. Let's go into that in a second. Alex wasn't wrong, says Travis. Normies don't understand what a false flag is. They don't understand a false flag wasn't when the government manifests a fake crisis and uses government agents to kill innocent people. Sad yeet. So they don't understand what it is. Yeah.
No, so that for Alex then, was it that in his own mind he felt that he was actually like watering it down by saying maybe no one died? Because if he was to say that they died, then that's some fucking evil shit. I mean, he's already talking about evil shit, but it's like 9/11. It's not like nobody fucking died.
Right.
It's it's a false flag just means it can mean a number of things, but traditionally, it's meant that you have an attack of some sort. And who is the culprit? Is it somebody from within? Is it somebody other than we're being led to believe that it is? It doesn't even mean that it's just you. Like
Great example, pirate ships, right? Because pirate ships, can you imagine a ship that's coming at you and it says, "Hey, we're a pirate ship. Get ready," right? Like, no. So this flag is the flag of the Jolly Roger, which was originally red because it was rouge and it was the Jolie Rouge, but it had to do with the skull, the blossom, the moon. It was bankers. Banking ships had this flag. And so eventually they started wearing the banking ship flag as their flag because, you use whatever flag you want to pretend you're the other group, so that you can sneak over there. That's how a pirate ship can get close to you. But they started to false flag the banking ship's flags, and that's the deal.
It's like you cannot they're robbing each other anyway. There's Spanish and English.
So wait, we were saying something about Brad Pitt. I know I saw Brad Pitt.
Yeah. Okay, so it was on the news. It was on Vanity Fair. Basically, he's in. How like last week he appeared on what's that?
Wait, was it Current Affair or was it Vanity Fair or was it
Vanity Fair? It was
Vanity.
It was on Vanity Fair. I'm pretty sure it's one of
it's
the
Vanity Fair. He wore a skirt, and it's like,
there you go.
An attention-seeking whore. I don't know how else to put it. I'm an attention-seeking clown. There you go.
But read his excuse. He said, "I put on a skirt, not because he's supporting the trans agenda, but look at the title. Look at the title.
It was about the breeze, right? He replied breeze. That was the reason, right?
No, but see, we are all going to die." What the hell is he trying to tell us there?
Wait, what was this? We're all going to die, is that what he said?
Yeah,
that was the title. Oh, we're all going to die. Wow.
He said that today. I thought it was funny at first, but I'm like, okay, today is like mass chaos in Asia right now.
Well, maybe it was a Country Joe and the Fish reference. I don't know.
Oh my God. Which is also a good Asia war reference. So.
Well, I just thought that guy, your listener was posting, the rule of Fight Club. So I thought it kind of syncs up with what's going on with that.
Right. There was also, so let's see, that almost brings us back to Saturn. Let me do a couple more things. We're nearly there. So we've got Joe Rogan said Jeffrey Epstein may have been a CIA or Mossad spy. Discuss. I mean, this is late to the table, but what do you guys think?
It's blackmailing. Okay, well, I'll go back to Alex Jones real quick. I think David's muted. Okay, but one of I talked about this a while back. Alex Jones, he invited this one guest. His name is Bob Chapman, Okay, he's a recurring guest because he's a financial advisor, and yeah, there we go. I have the actual episode. It's really hard to find it. You got to. I sent you the link to the video. He basically in this one episode that was aired in 2011, he went on air to talk about. He's like, Alex, I got something I got to tell you about because they're trying to talk about Reaganomics and all the corruption behind the cabinet. So he started to talk about how he was invited to a room full of industrial elites. It's a small screening room. And then Alex was like, "Oh, you better spit it out now. You know, you're already halfway there. If you don't say it now, they're gonna kill you anyway." So basically, they just like, "Come on, spill your beans right now." So this guy just was, "All right. I tell you, Alex, since I trust you so much." He started to talk about how he was in the screening room watching a film projection of a recording of Ronald. Oh, I better be careful. My door's closed, but about Ronald Reagan getting violated by some tranny with a strap on.
And that was Nancy. Sorry.
See, I'm probably not the skinny little woman like Nancy.
Dude.
But,
No.
No. But
blowjob queen. It's all right. You can say David wants to say that she was the blowjob queen, and we're gonna make time for that. Okay.
Because we're gonna try to get to where Epstein is about, right? So you guys are trying to say Epstein is the Mossad spy or whatever, but no stronger way to coerce entire government to do their bidding is by exposing them on film, coked out with a bunch of minor kids and naked in the bedroom.
Okay, Eddie, this shit goes on big time. The shit that you're talking about goes on, and I know that you're the type of person that if somebody's you're like, the truth is the truth, whatever the fuck.
Oh no, I didn't say that. That's what I'm trying to tell you. What I heard.
Yeah,
I want to see what you guys think.
I remember this, and I went down this whole thing because I saw him. What you're describing, him talking about it, and I went to look at other places where he talked about it, and I actually found a recording. Like, don't take my word for this. This isn't how arguments should work. Like, you can find it somewhere, but there's a recording of him getting interviewed. And there's like a point where the person interviewing him like didn't even mean to make him contradict himself. Like, you could hear it. It was just the way it came out. And then they both kind of like realize it, like, oh fuck, because it's like a major part of his story. Like, this was a while ago. This was like fucking 7-8 years ago or something. And I was like, oh shit, he just got his fucking thing. And the guy tried to like backpedal for him, who was interviewing him, because he's giving him a platform. And it was just like, it was cringe. I'm sorry, but
that's also the thing is like
blackmail is fucking everywhere, and by the
they do it everywhere.
Blackmail is, we can only know the tip of the iceberg because blackmail fucking works and it happens all the time. So I have to.
You cannot get to the bottom of that truth at all. I mean, give me that screening. I want to be in that screening room. Good luck, right? You know. It's like, but I'm saying is, if you think about it, if you can use your imagination, it's a really freaking powerful tool. But everybody's like putty in your hand. You're like, there's nothing you can do. No matter how powerful you are, you can be a Rothschild or you can be a Donald Trump, whatever. You
just gotta be a Rasputin. You gotta be clever. That's all there really is. Yeah. But okay, so before we get to Saturn again, because it's coming, I swear. Meet the scientists trying to find out why the Arctic is warming faster than the rest of the world. And this has been a thing that everyone's worrying about. But like, they're like, hey, it'll gradually happen. Like, no, feedback loops. The Arctic's warmer than places in Minnesota. I've noticed. Not right now. Minnesota's good now, but in general, it gets colder. It was like -40 in January, and so in centigrade. So that's serious. And in parts of McMurdo, it was about 20 above, which is not freezing. And again, pretty impressive. Again, centigrade. So what's going on?
You're saying the Earth is spinning like almost like. It's spinning faster.
Yeah, we got to do that one too. That's a good point. Let's go to the Earth spinning faster.
A lot of flat earthers are cleaning me out of.
That's a good point. Yeah, so flat earthers, like, please, like, feel free to like chime in on this subject. But what are they saying when they say, even if it's like, because I always like to believe, even if everything is true. So there's even the lies. So what are they lying about? What does it mean? I don't know. I'm curious though. If things are spinning faster, what does that mean, right? To anybody.
I think we should all just start running
Which direction are we going to spin up too much that way too, or
what Superman does? You got to go the other way.
So we experienced Earth's shortest day in 50 years last month. Experiencing Earth's shortest day isn't a big deal in and of itself, but 2020 alone, the planet experienced 28 of its shortest days in the past 58 years. Scientists first began measuring the Earth's rotation, so we're spinning faster. So, I mean, when people say our day is going by quicker, they literally are.
Why we'll never have another election that isn't contested. This is the reason.
Explain.
Well, that does a number on us, man. We're trying to keep up with attention span, man. Like if you have an attention span, you need to remember these people fucking 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and what the fuck they were and what the fuck they did and whatever the fuck. So because if you want to, keep some amount of accountability, but yeah, shortening attention span, maybe that's an effect. I don't know. That's speculative, but
I mean, it makes sense though. I mean, there's more and more days, more years in between. Things are going faster, so there's more things that are flickering by.
It's just recession, it's like the shrinkflation, you go to the grocery store, everything's shrinking, the same as with time. They'll have no more time for you. It's
right?
shrinking the package of everything right now to fit in the budget.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think there's definitely something to be said for people's gravitation or orientation to the left, that we fragment and we compartmentalize anyway. And so I feel like there's a natural cycle that's happening, and then there's like all this kind of like drive from powers that be to like keep the thing from happening that is actually completely futile. Like we're giving birth to the next species, and it's like this crazy thing is going to take place, and like all the things that are even trying to keep it from happening actually end up contributing to it. It's kind of like when somebody tries to go back in time to fucking stop something, like 12 Monkeys or whatever, and then somehow they end up being the reason why the fucking thing happened in the first place. And you're like, wait a minute, though. I think it's kind of like that.
No, I do kind of agree with that. That I feel like we're in the shift where AI is like the only solution. They're like, oh well, we got to come up with the next generation of slaves, and we know these biological slavery is just not working anymore. These people, they know how to rush the Capitol Hill. They know how to.
Doesn't it feel like what we're doing with AI is just like what we try and do, like when we name our children, and you want to continue your legacy or whatever. So it's like us as a species, we're like, oh shit, we're going down. We better build the next thing to like take our place or whatever. Like that's some kind of like coping mechanism or whatever, to like see a mirror image of ourselves that will continue for us, and then meanwhile something itself that is so mysterious and so profound that's actually like in the dynamics of nature as it exists is actually like going through this kind of birthing process that like I could take it that like that's the whole thing with like the curse in the garden, where they're like then you have to feel pain with childbirth, that it's like we get to experience this as painful, even though like it doesn't have to be painful, but because of the way we resist it, it does. I
feel like for me AI is different. I don't know, it's close, but so I think of it like this, like that I'm wrestling with somebody that's trying to stop, that's trying to kill me, and somebody who's already killed my family and has already killed my children and my wife, my lover, whatever. And we're now being forced through a window in this violent fight. And while we're falling through 3 stories through this double pane shattered glass window, wrestling, and they're trying to kill me after killing my family, that I grab a piece of glass and I try to put it into the enemy that's trying to kill me, that's already killed my family. I feel like that piece of glass is AI as I'm falling. And that's the only that's the only way that I can look at the future, really, is that
I think it's wrong to treat it as good or bad, because it is what the fuck it is. You know what I mean? And that's the nature of that screen. But like, that screen is a screen. Like it's not, it's just like when somebody's saying something is something that as though it were more than it is. It's like a fucking mandala. So like it could all go whoosh, and but there's something about what we are like in our nature that can't be done to, and so there's something indestructible because the thing just reorganizes itself, That's the thing with mutation, is that there's an intelligence in nature that's like that runs deeper than the periphery of what we're perceiving, because we see the first signs of mutation and it's horrifying, but like ultimately what the ultimate end of what that is and what that will mean is like that organizing principle that exists within nature. It like I treat that if there is a God, you know, that's kind of a scientific interpretation of that, because you're like, if the thing has its own intelligence, you're like, that intelligence is greater than what I generally relate to as intelligence. It's like the accumulation of like knowledge, which is just like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Like actual, it's like what Krishnamurti talked about, intelligence, like what constitutes that, you know?
Dude.
Well, I mean, if you look at vaccination, the concept, it's like you're not allowing your own biology to evolve. You're not giving the body the fighting chance to say, hey, I'm gonna, or even, you know, or like mitochondria, you try to absorb another entity to become. I don't know how to describe it. I just feel
You're
like
deviating from your linear progression. You're changing the timeline.
There's that paternal protective.
There's a third parent. There's a third parent involved.
Yeah, it's surrogate. You know, it's just crazy. I feel like we're gonna destroy ourselves because we're overprotective of everything. You know,
right. Totally. The like overbearing, like, oh my god, like that's the thing with like the fucking like nanny state. Yeah. It has like a personality. It's like in the fatherland and the whole deal of like respect to the thing. It's like, dude, you can see the family dynamics in the dynamic, and this isn't like family. So what the fuck is going on? That's R.D. Lang's shit with knots, you know, where it's like you can take what they were applying. That's the war games. So like when you're doing war games, you're testing. You have to know, like, suppose you're having a conversation with somebody, and you want to avoid it getting to a place where you're at each other. You know what I mean? Like it's, so you have to recognize loops. So like in speech, how things will come back around. Like you could be saying the same thing but phrasing it different, and like basically accounting for all that. So there's like a whole science that was being developed. I guess the 50s and 60s on in the military on how to maintain, like that's a whole diplomacy thing. You're like, we have critical need to be able to communicate like in such a way that it's not going to be problematic. And so R.D. Lang took, from my understanding, R.D. Lang took what they were using in the military and he applied it to basically arguments within a family unit. So like how, you know, a husband and wife, or a father and son, or a mother and son, or a mother and daughter, whatever, and just seeing the way that basically in regular communication, we basically create these knots that on their own terms are unreconcilable. So he's like speaking to inertia. Like if it moves in the same direction, like what are the results going to be? Because they had to do that with war games. They didn't want to avoid nuclear war. And so he was like, what if you take that and look at people? It's totally fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
he had his issues later. I think he prescribed a bunch of drugs or something, even though he was like supposedly not, you know, and whatever, it doesn't matter.
I think I'm going to bring up the chat. Someone said Terry Gilliam is from Minnesota. That is not a coincidence. If you look into the Viking Alexandrian runestone, it is from the hometown of Terry Gilliam. So yeah, the connections to the Vikings coming into America. Terry Gilliam's a very interesting guy.
I have a non-Terry Gilliam story where I like was riding past Terry Gilliam's house in London with Andrea Galler, and she said, "Oh, we should stop by Terry's." And then we realized that he was working on the Don Quixote.
Don Quixote, yeah.
And so he wasn't around. So it's a non-story. But I almost met Terry Gilliam once.
Not bad. I'll take it. See his house. I mean, I loved it when I lived in LA. I used to drive around but get bored, just go in Hollywood and just drive around the hills of Mulholland and to the canyons to Topanga Canyon and all those areas, and you surround everybody, and you're like, wow, I'm like 100 feet from some celebrity masturbating right now to some primetime television movie, you know, next to their PlayStation they can't turn on. But okay, so I was gonna bring up this because I thought it was funny. Let me start with the tweet I made because that gives you the least information and that's funniest. So the atomic wars lasted. I said the atomic wars lasted for decades. From 1964 until 1989, there were atomic wars. until when NASA sent 3 men back to 1962 and disrupted Operation Camelot, right? So we brought up Camelot tonight to mean the disclosure of this parallel reality story. And if you look at Corey Good, David Wilcox, some of these guys who've made some kind of funny videos about this idea, there's these 20 and back programs, this idea that you could be there's people that have said this, like, yeah, I was in the secret space program. I was in a submarine on Saturn, and I was, when I turned 60, I was sent back in time to be 40. And in fact, some of these people have been sent back to retire, reliving their lives from babies supposedly on, and in a mundane life that's more fun, that doesn't have too many stresses on it, but it's more it's not such a big impact on the timeline is the hope, while they're simultaneously living out, because of Project Camelot, in Dimension X Ninja Turtles land. Okay. And there's a bunch of people that have said this over the years, and I've seen a bunch of like 6-hour talks from 60-year-old men that really believe that they were, and some of their stories were taken even and made into like Lifetime television movies or something weird like that, just to mess with them. Like there's a lot of funny stuff about this idea. But when you look into this story, what the idea is, and physics tells you, and I've got it somewhere here, that Stanford, 1962, where does it stand for? Point is, linear accelerator being built in Stanford back. Oh, let's skip ahead of that. Let me go here. So in 1962, there's all of a sudden the building of these nuclear projects. And we have the other Project Camelot, which is started in 1964 after the assassination of Kennedy. And if you think about this on another level, the time machine, H.G. Wells.
Oh boy, I know where you're going with this, I think.
Right, exactly. So H.G. Wells, he's got a book in 1890 that says that there's a war coming. It's a world war, which isn't that impressive because we know that there's a world war coming by 1890, but still he knows exactly when, and it happens. And he says there's airships, and there are. Granted, there were airships in the wars in 1860, but then he says World War II is going to be right after that. He pushes forward in his time machine. He sees more flying machines, bigger iron flying machines, and it's in 1930s to 40. He's exactly right. Then he pushes forward to 1964. Everything's perfect, except then a giant bomb, the biggest bomb, quote unquote, that's ever existed, starts off chain reactions, destroying volcanoes or erupting. The world is just reset because of a nuclear. And again, it's 1890, so we don't even have the word, but he's describing a nuclear destruction that takes place in 1964. That's the same time, of course, as the Cuban Missile Crisis. I think some of you have probably thought about this connection to 1964, especially some of the older guys. I know people that watched the movie in 1960 and thought, wow, 1964, that's going to be crazy. And then when 1963 and 4 rolled around and the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, they thought it really was going down, that there was going to be a nuclear war. Now, a little further forward,
wasn't the Russian Tsar bomb also detonated around that time?
Exactly. Yeah. And so you've got there's a couple, and then Quantum Leap, the TV show, goes into this even weirder. So I've been watching some more episodes about this because it totally covers this. But what Russia said about using nuclear weapons, Putin recently said nobody wins in a nuclear fight. And this is a truth that would have been true back in the Dr. Strangelove times. We knew this then, that if we live in a world of nuclear and nuclear could happen, then nuclear could be the universal wipeout for everybody, and nobody wants that. There's a show and a book that's called 11/22/63 by Stephen King. This story is about a guy who goes back in time. The movie stars, TV show stars James Franco as the guy who goes back in time by going through a meat cellar freezer. And when he travels to 1962 or something like that, he has to wait like a year before he's able to change history. And eventually, spoiler alert, he succeeds in changing history and Kennedy survives. But when he gets back to the future, it's all nuclear fallout, right? Because under a less serious president or under a more liberal president, the potential that Dr. Strangelove talked about, the potential for a war to happen, a nuclear condition to happen, came plausible. And there's so many examples besides the Cuban Missile Crisis where there would have been nuclear fallout. So there's a hypothesis having to do with the testimonies of a number of the Project Camelot retirees, these 20 and back guys, 40 or 60 and back guys, saying that The timeline was shifted. This might have something to do with other linear accelerator timelines, that there's a safe gap on 1962, and that we are living in a parallel reality from the one where Kennedy won and Project Camelot continued on. And that Project Camelot was continued on by the CIA or whatever kind of new agency that was created. And that is what's going on simultaneously on the side connected to these missions in Saturn. So what do you guys want to say?
So you know the release date. Well, so there's a release date, but that was the official release. But the very first screening of Doctor Strangelove to ever happen was the day and year that Kennedy was shot, and so it was canceled.
Really?
Which is really.
Well, there you go. There's that's some circumstantial evidence that I love. So 11/22/63, they were going to make a movie about a president who was a little impotent, and he allows for a nuclear holocaust to happen. Interesting.
Right. So, whoa. Yeah, there was a lot there to address.
I'm trying to look into the word Camelot. Now, what is the etymology of this?
Well, camel has to do with Campbell, and that's camels, actual camels. And
it originated from the King Arthur.
Right. Well, where does King Arthur originate from? So you look in Tartaria and Artura, and this idea that these get plaid. Tartan comes from Botswana. It was brought by Roman, Ethiopian, Carthaginian.
Dude, are you doing the thing from like My Big Fat Greek Wedding where the guy just brings everything back to fucking Greek? Oh, I mean,
it's not quite though. This is actually weirdly enough, I'm doing the opposite. So what I'm saying is that everything comes from everywhere else. So Greek traditions don't come from Greece. That's what I'm saying. And so you look at for instance bagpipes. Bagpipes are goat skin. Bagpipes were brought by the Romans. The Romans didn't use actual Romans. They didn't use Italians. They got conscripted soldiers from other places, including Africa. So you've got a number of things that were brought to Scottish culture. If you look into Botswana textiles, you will see the Fitzgerald and the Nicholson tartan, as well as a number of other colors, which are very famous.
Are you a fan of Darren Brown?
Darren Brown. Which one's Darren Brown?
He's like a NLP hypnotist.
Oh, yeah, that guy, the British guy.
Oh, yeah. I don't follow him, but I know what you're talking about.
He's been London. He blew my mind. He's like doing some crazy shit, or those are the best fucking actors I've ever seen in my life.
He get everything for free, right? He just give like a blank check and people just give him everything.
Dude, all kinds of shit, this fucking guy. And what's cool about it is a lot of his stuff, he'll tell you how he does it. And so but I'm asking because I think the shit that he does verbally, Andreas would probably be pretty good at it.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not trying to say anything about the Scottish people being. All I was trying to bring up was this idea that the culture has confluences of ideas that have come together, right? Which is I believe that, and a lot of people, if you look at Scotland today, the best curry in the world comes from Scotland. There's a Scottish guy who's the best cook, and it's a modernization of a thing from another place. This is a huge thing with a people that, rabbits aren't from England, right? Or from the Valentine region. They're brought by the Romans. So many things are brought to England and we think of as English culture, or actually just soul food and slave culture from the Roman Empire. That's kind of what I'm getting at. And
yeah, I don't know. I know that like in the Golden Bough, when it's speaking to things in like antiquity, I know that the hair was spoken of in all kinds of places. So I don't know.
I gotta do the rabbit bunny. Was it Bugs Bunny?
What do you?
Okay. Bugs Bunny, Starvin' Martian. That's my first immediate sync that I got for that one. So if you've seen the Starvin' Martian cartoon, the original time Starvin' Martian shows up, they meet on the moon because Shang Li, which is the rabbit, and if you look at the Chinese, Tartarian, Eddie, you know this.
Yeah,
Shang Li, the rabbit.
Yeah, because the Chang'e, the Chinese space program, the rocketry. The first rocket that brought their equipment to the moon, it was called Chang'e. Or you can spell it Chang with a apostrophe E. She's a princess. She was a princess whose husband shot down 9 suns because there were 10 suns in the sky scorching the earth, and people were begging for relief. So he shot down 9 suns, who turned into black crows. Which is a lot of weird Saturn thing going on here.
That reminds me of the Leviathan thing again.
Yeah. There's definitely something connected to other mythologies where, and so she married him because he became the instant hero in China, that he saved the planet from some getting burned up in flames. She was being abused by him. He became like this crazy drunk tyrant, and then he wanted to live forever, so he was trying to get a hold of this elixir, and she didn't want that to happen. She said, "No, I'll drink the whole thing." So she downed the whole, she just like down the hatch and basically killed herself. So she left her body and flew to the moon, and there was a palace waiting for her in the moon with a bunch of white rabbits. And so that's where the I don't know the or I don't I, even to this point I still don't know where the rabbits came from. But there are a bunch of white rabbits on the moon.
See Moonfall?
I haven't seen that. No,
Action movie, whatever the fuck. It's basically somebody took fucking Mark Leclerc's whole like trip and like made a movie out of it. Like there's a character in the movie, as far as I can tell, that seems to be Mark Leclerc. It's who's like central. It's weird as fuck.
What's the story? What happened with McLaren and what happened with the Moonfall? What's that?
Comes closer to Earth. And
the moon got too close to Earth. Yeah.
And you're like tidal waves and stuff. That's crazy.
So they go into the moon, and it's like this whole alien technology, like that it was built, and it's like. But I don't know if you guys are familiar with the work of Mark Leclerc, the Wrong Way Wizard. From he hasn't been around for a long time. He used to play piano on cruise ships. Super cool, amazing, interesting guy. But yeah, and a lot of plagiarism has happened from him, where he drops things out into in the internet. It's like this shit happens. Just like I don't know that that's what happened with Moonfall, but it really would not surprise me if when people were researching ideas for a fucking movie and they found Mark's trip. And we're kind of paid somebody homage that they never even fucking communicated with. I doubt anyone actually approached Mark Leclerc about this, but it happened with it could have been a coincidence, could have been a synchronicity. I don't know what the fuck, which would be
like 47 comes to mind, obviously.
Sure. So yeah, exactly. And so there was a project that Alan was working on where it was called Squares That Touch. And there was emphasis on touch. And he did this kind of thing in Photoshop where he arranged all these different images that were in squares and then had some of them touch or whatever. And it was written a certain way, had a certain color palette. It was this thing. And then on Fox, there was that show Touch with, what's his name? Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, yeah.
About the autistic synchronicity and all this stuff. It's a synchronicity show. I never saw the show. But Touch had a poster art thing that they put out for commercial art for the show, and it just said touch, but it had all these squares, and it was done the same style, suit. You look back and forth, and it's what the fuck. Now he put that out there on the internet. Anything on the internet is fair game, and when people are taking things from people, they don't always. It's smart to take them from people that you would never, who the fuck is going to know? It's super obscure, that shit happens. I really wouldn't surprise me if somebody just snagged that idea from Alan,
He didn't copyright it.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Eddie's laughing over here working for all these TV shows knowing how to copyright, but a lot of these people don't understand that. They didn't even try. And that's what I brought up Room 247, because we got a friend who had brought up a lot of really important stuff about Kubrick. And another guy goes and makes a documentary about all of it. Doesn't cite him.
Fall, what's his name? Jesus Christ, Outside Out of Mind. That's the thing. I'm just not in touch with people.
Exactly, and think about what that does.
John Fell Ryan.
Yeah, John Fell Ryan, and I think he lives in Alaska or something now, or something. Forget, but he's he's isolated, and it's he should be famous because he brought up all the things that people care about. But of course, somebody else goes and
I watched the Shining forwards and backwards at the Roxy Theater in San Francisco, and he did a Skype kind of interview beforehand. It was sold out. There was people outside trying to get in. It was so packed. It was fucking amazing. Shining forwards and backwards, and with transparency, and it was awesome. But I gotta say, he was getting interviewed, and I was like, man, is he gonna mention anybody else's anything? He was, tied into. I was just. If I look at something like that, I think about what I would like to think that I would do if I was in that position. If I had a full audience of people and I'm sharing, they go, "Oh, how did you come up with this idea?" Somebody made the film for him. He asked them to do it. It's a great fucking idea. It's really interesting. I like to do it with eyes wide shut. I think that'd be kind of fun. Anyway, it was like it was weird because I was like, dude, doesn't have to even be the sync community. I'm like, so what do you got? Like, it's just I don't know. I'm being honest. Oh, I guess we're being broadcasted. I'm not trying to talk shit. He's awesome.
Yeah,
I love he's brilliant. Like I'd like a shout out for, not just for me, not even, I'm not saying, why don't you talk about me? I'm talking about like, dude, there's like a whole like scene, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
That'd be great. We got a super chat from Stefan. Stefan will be on at some point, maybe next week. We're going to get him on either Synctank or Ultra, one of these things. He's great. He says the first color photo is titled Tartan Ribbon. It's literally a picture of a strip of negative tied in a bow, but people pretend it's just fabric. So that's kind of interesting. I also got a chat here. Paul said, the eye of the needle made donkey size, not camel size. So that gets back to the Chameau or Camelot idea that it's really has to do with this Project Camelot. JFK was going to build a new world order called Camelot. That was a Vatican-inspired Camelot, right? And what do you guys think about the fact that we're living in the fallout of what was considered to be this nuclear inevitable age? Do you think that we're living in some parallel reality, or is that too crazy?
Well, I think that this whole nuclear technology is dinosaur for one, but you've been reading articles about how China and England and US, they're all three racing to build the artificial sun.
Right. Yeah.
It's not fusion, it's fission, right? It's a fission technology.
I think China did that, but they only operated it for like 7 seconds or something.
Yeah, but at least it worked.
Yeah.
And
pride there.
So, like I told you about, like how I'm starting to get into this whole inner Earth kind of thing going on because they say, all right, it's getting hotter and hotter. The nuclear war might not happen. We don't know, but they're preparing to go underground of sorts. Where
that's Dr. Strangelove, the whole thing.
Yeah, so whether we get a new sun. The two suns or the underground sun, I don't know. I just feel like there is a plan in place where we're. I don't know if we're ever going to get off this planet. To be honest, I mean, Elon Musk can do whatever he wants. Fly through Mars and then build your own little robotic colony. But I think that most of the planet is going to end up going underground, and by whatever means necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just my thought there. But
I got a thought on that. But David, what do you got? What do you got to say on the world and on Project Camelot, parallel realities? Military running in a parallel dimension.
Well, I don't know. Philip K. Dick's ex-wife, what's her name?
Oh yeah,
old people on Facebook. I don't remember their names anymore. But I pitched to her like the idea of like Tisha B'Av as like Kabbalah, like what he was speaking to about this point of like of time branching off. So like the
Leslie Busby.
What's the book called with the I can't think right now. The loop.
The Martian time loop. No,
kind of. I mean, what's the Valis?
That's Martian.
The Valis loop.
Oh.
So in the way that the Valis loop, like he related with Watergate, and there's just kind of like this idea that like the structure of the thing breaks down in a cyclical way. So it's really relating to like archetypes. So it's like as something begins to fall apart. So it's like we're really relating to like a reality that in a sense is almost like we're looking at the skin of a snake. And so it's there, and then like we move forward, like we're all like in a sense we're like ahead of ourselves. So it's like what we're actually looking at is actually like as the surface, as the topical, and the way that our brains, in order to process what we're a part of, has to like consolidate everything and relate to this projection of it. And so it's the idea that there's like literally like not just like parallel universes, but it's like what we're relating to of the thing that we think we are isn't necessarily like what is actually behind it, in form and emanating. Like it's a hard thing to this idea to like communicate it in any simple way because it's just so loaded with like paradox. But the idea is like I think somebody who kind of does it well, who kind of goes into it is who's that fucking comic book
Frank Miller?
No. The philosophical one.
Alan
Neil Gaiman, Alan Watts.
No, keep going. He's a big one. Fuck. God damn it.
Grant.
Yeah, Kenneth Grant. No, not Kenneth Grant. Not Kenneth Grant. Grant Morrison.
Grant Morrison. Okay.
So like Grant Morrison has this whole idea that like we're like,
see, we know comic book.
Like we're sitting where we're sitting, but like if you think about it, like before this, like you were somebody somewhere else, and like you could go around the room where you were, and you like if you look at like that, like almost like a snake or like a centipede or something, where like you have all these arms and all these legs and all these eyes going backwards through time, and that you could like follow that line back to like wherever you were 10 years ago, like all the way line, like it's like this ongoing, thing that you can trace, and you can take it back to your mother, and you can take it back to your father, and you can take it back to infinite degree, and keep going to their fathers, to their mothers, and on and on and on and back, and go to like how all of them kind of connect to one place, and that's really the unity. And yet the unity and the diversity are both like they both exist, and it's not like the Big Bang is something that happened a long time ago and we're just playing it out. It's like the Big Bang is happening now all the time. The thing is always happening. And so like in that whole idea of like space expanding, well, if it's like a torus, then it just keeps regenerating itself and keeps transmutating to, into whatever it becomes, and so there's that idea that like when we look at like events that occurred, like I see this as like Philip K. Dick's ideas around that. Like I can relate really easily to the Zohar, and like he dabbles in that a bit, like in what is this book, Exogenesis? Is it, what is it? I actually have it, I can't think right now, but yeah. Anyway, that idea of like Tisha B'Av as like cyclically, like that's the 9th day of the 11th month in the Jewish calendar. We're about to approach it. What, 3 days, something like that? So
9th day of the 11th month, you said.
Yes. That's that's what Tisha B'Av means. Mm-hmm. And so this is the day we attribute to the destruction of the temple. And then there's the warning around the temple that it's not to be something that's built by human hands, and then it gets built anyway by Solomon, David's son. And so he gets
Who gave Solomon the blueprint of the temple?
Demons, right? He got demons, a Goetia.
Is it Goetia?
Yeah, he's got, supposedly, right? Isn't that the deal, that he's got spirits to build it, because humans can't build it?
That's the strangest thing, because it's like we're going to build it anyway. And the rationalization, the way they treat it, it's like we took materials from another place and brought them over. So it's like, but it's like that's the meaning of the thing, though. But like at the same time, it has its argument, it has its rationalization, because you're here. What are you gonna do? Like, kids, you can do something. Why not do it? It's kind of like the Large Hadron Collider. I can't talk. Like, yeah. It's Well,
okay. Well, since you went on the topic of the serpent, you know how last week we talked about New York Times talking about the normalizing cannibalism, and then somebody brought up Ouroboros, right? The snake that eats its own tail. And now you talk about Taurus, the possible model of the Mobius time loop, where and the time god, Saturn time god Kronos, is devouring itself essentially, because it's catching up to his own tail, right? I mean, I think I think that's what's happening here, is that there's that we're not going anywhere else but in a full circle.
Right. The point is that Shekinah is shrouded, and she is Saturn. So, like when you wrap a tefillin around your hand and you go down your arm to do the tefillin ritual, you're starting at your middle finger for Saturn, and that's because her association, that Saturn association with Shekinah. And so, like,
Shahina, isn't it the symbol of Shahina?
That's no, that's Shin.
Oh, that's
Shin. Okay. That's Shin. That's the symbol for Shin. Yeah, the Hebrew letter. Okay. Yeah. Which you'd say, like, from its Phoenician Chaldean roots is like a canine tooth, But yeah, when you wrap the tefillin, you're wrapping Shekinah. And so, like, the idea is that, like, that this is it's like sorry, but it's archetypal. It's like the Ramayana, where you have Sita is taken from Ram, and he's looking for her in the heart of man. That's how it translates from is that actually Sanskrit? It's probably Hindi, but it's just this this separation. So it's the two archetypes. It's like the Empress and the Emperor in tarot. They look at each other, And so there's this treatment of Sadi, the significance of Sadi. It's like two faces, and there's a whole prophecy around the faces looking away from each other, looking at each other, you know. And so they've been separated, and they're aspects of ourselves. And so this is my feeling on like what happened with Saturn as far as, you know, the Greeks and then following with the Romans is it's kind of like they took this symbolism. It's not just, oh, they made it male. It's not as simple as that. It's that there's kind of like there's something that they built around something else. It's like the ritual of 9/11 was built around a happening so that they can kind of direct it the way that whoever it is that are the masterminds of that artistic relationship to these archetypes, the way we relate to them, because there's always these kind of implicit assumptions when we have like a treatment of a story like that that's that embedded in a culture. And so you're you know, that's the argument for like the Old Testament, and especially the what we know of the New Testament, because it's closer to us, so it's easier to look at, you know, scholarly in a way. You know, it's like you can see the way that things were used for war purposes or for gaining territory, and like, you know, that whole thing of like history is written by the winners. But my feeling, I don't agree with Joseph Atwill on all points. I think sometimes he's wildly speculative and doesn't always acknowledge that. But I will say that, like, you know, that idea that you're actually could be looking at the text of Josephus Flavius, who himself did not like want to be in that position, but it was between that and dying. And also you're like, you know, how best can you meet something but from the inside? You're like, they're going to do what they're doing one way or the other. You know, I think he was probably on some level like did you think that he foresaw how long it would take before people could look at the text and actually like recognize, like, you know, what is everything that the humor that's implied everywhere, like the four stories when you put them together, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and like Mary shows up at the cave 4 different times. It's 4 different fucking Marys. It says which times of day it was, you know, and it's like that shit gets hysterical. I think a lot of the biblical stuff is just like loaded with like a next level humor that like goes beyond like our relationship to humor now. It's just like deeply hysterical, you know. I don't know.
Well, I got
too literal.
I got a thought as we close for the evening. There's a movie that you might have seen but probably haven't, from H.G. Wells. Usually he does books, but this was a film called Things to Come in 1936, and it was made, you know, 36 if you know about Poland, and 39 and all that jazz. There was a war that came right after this movie, a world war, where England was in the war. And the movie starts out by saying, let's just say sometime after this 1936 movie, there is a world war, and it ends in total devastation for everybody. And there's a kind of reset. And then everybody ends up back in sort of a dark age time. You know, there's chieftains taking over England, people with horses pulling around carts of, you know, a Rolls Royce is being pulled by a donkey, right? Because it's just all falling over. And then a guy shows up from the wings of the world, the Freemasonry of science. This is all verbatim. The what do you call it? I forget. The air wings of the air or something like that. And it's a group, that part's a little bit more. A guy from Baghdad shows up in a plane over the town of London, drops a bomb of a psychedelic bomb that will it just completely turns everyone into happy, laughing dancers. And so then they're not able to fight anymore. And it ends the struggles that we had with the atomic bombs in World War II, because we have love bombs, which will completely destroy the organization of these people and make it easy for them to be rounded up by these Freemasons of science. Again, the Wings Over the World group from Baghdad that have, you know, somehow Baghdad has arisen as the new capital of the New World Order by whatever 1950 or whatever it is after this.
That's where the Stargate is.
So H.G. Wells wrote War of the Worlds, and Orson Welles made War of the Worlds the radio broadcast.
Right, because he probably figured he wanted credit for that because it was that good to have his name.
What's up with the Wells, man? You got 2 Wells?
Yeah.
All's well
They're
that ends
spelled
well.
a little differently, but still they're pronounced the same.
But all Wells, you know, end well.
It's funny that H.G. Wells is in this movie, and we'll talk and bring up Iraq. I mean, well, you know what they did in 2016, right? With in London, they basically clone all bunch of Sumerian and Assyrian structures, including the Temple of Baal.
And people too.
They rebuilt it's Palmyra, right? Palmyra, the gates of hell. Some people coined it, but it's actually the I think it's the triumph. I don't know. It's the Arch of Triumph or whatever it's called, but it's supposed to be the entrance to the Temple of Baal, and they rebuilt it in the Trafalgar Square in London, and there was a whole ceremony going on. And the same year, Queen Elizabeth also approved the erection of the Pazuzu statue. Pazuzu, as you know, the
Exorcist.
God, the exorcist god Pazuzu, which is actually of Assyrian origin.
It's a wind, right? It's goddess of the wind or something like that.
The god of wind, and some people call the archon with the demons. So in 2016, if you look it up, just look it up, London Pazuzu statue, and Queen Elizabeth personally approved. There you go.
Really? That's pretty good. Hold on.
I remember that.
It was crazy. I mean,
yeah.
They're basically opening up a portal, in my opinion.
I'm no portal expert or nothing, but if I was going to open a portal, this is how I would start.
Yeah, they certainly don't worship these kind of deities. Why
the Exorcist 2, the Heretic, Strange Attracts, Olivia Newton-John's Physical. As in, let's get physical. I'm just saying, it's true.
It's not bad. We gotta do the sync tracks. That's gonna be big. So, okay, really quickly to wrap on
one last thing. Since we're still on H.G. Wells, real quick. Okay, you know the movie Time After Time with McDowell.
Malcolm McDowell,
yeah. Look at the time machine. Well, the movie is basically about H.G. Wells.
Sure,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
And his time machine being stolen, right? So, and what's his name? Just died recently. The bad guy.
That's true.
The one in Tron, the guy who played a sword.
Oh yeah, Mary Steenburgen was isn't she in no?
David Warren.
She's in Back to the Future 3, right? Isn't that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is definitely a lot.
Going south.
And there you go. Now you see Back to the Future. Now go look at in this movie the time machine. Look at the panel.
Right. Oh yeah. No, it's H.G. Wells. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but look at the panel of the time machine.
It's better though because it's not just a sled. Because the funny thing about the time machine is it's a sled like Rosemary.
Okay. Well, you know what? Maybe there's no because nobody paid attention to the clock on the panel when he dialed in.
That's true. He's got the time machine mechanism, regardless of the fact that he's got a kind of gazebo around him. The time machine mechanism is the exact same H.G. Wells time machine mechanism. Yes, it's forward, and it's a crystal that sticks into as a key, and he pushes it forward.
Yeah,
right.
And if you know me long enough with Matt Poe.
Oh, and the stones of the rabbi, right on the chest plate.
12 of them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I forget what that's called. The something and the something.
Yeah. Okay. But anyways, you can see on YouTube there's this short clip of him getting inside the machine, and so I dialed the time. Do you know what time? Do you know what date he said?
I can't remember.
November 5th.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go.
And what time was the time machine invented in Back to the Future?
November 5th.
There we go. Right there.
Yeah. Let's do Back to the Future. No. 5th, just so people can see.
1955. Yeah.
It's always no 5th. Yeah.
So this is why I always coin 55 November 5th the Saturn time code. I abuse it over and over because it's everywhere you look. but I mean I still have no solid ground in proving what I'm trying to say. But that's definitely a coding.
Dude, by next week, everybody's going to have watched Time After Time, and they're going to have seen Things to Come, and that's going to be pretty great. Plus, hopefully, they'll see Brainstorm, because I think that's worth your time as well. But, okay, the deal with this movie, because I'm going to give you a couple spoilers, and I'll be done, and you can watch the rest of the movie yourselves. But I want to say, the guy shows up from Wings of the World. They build the New World Order. Everybody's happy. They start living underground, right? Because all these poor people that were above the ground, these are them on acid, by the way. And he's like, ha, 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 ha. But then they start living underground. And they build this new society, and it finally gets back on track. And then we're in this point, which is like 1984 looking futurism. And I mean 1984 from like Disneyland, not from Orwell. Like that, we'll be taking trips to the moon routinely every day. But the thing is, then arrives the same problem that happened during World War II, or whatever they call it in this the next Great War. That there are Luddites. And the Luddites hate technology and think, why are we wasting our time building this technology to go to the moon? And they're building a gun to shoot man in a rocket to the moon. The gun will shoot them, and the bullet itself won't. The rocket won't have to have anything on it because it'll just be projected by this gun. So that's a very I forget the French filmmaker, right? Earth to the Moon.
Lumiere.
René Lumiere, Earth. Moon, you've seen this, but it's the same thing as he shoots a gun based on Jules Verne's story of shooting a gun to get to land in the moon, right? So it's the same thing, but in this version, the Luddites try to stop it, and so they have to make some big propaganda speech to convince people that it's worth their time. And he says, okay, well, people die, man has death, we'll give man something to die for, verbatim. And that's the beginning of convincing humanity that it's important to, now that they've finally sustained themselves by living underground, that it's time to go and pollinate the skies and pollinate space. And he ends it with talking about, because of King Arthur, Camelot. So there's a sync there. I think it's kind of interesting, this idea that Project Camelot's going on. But
easier for a rich man to get into heaven harder for a rich man to get in heaven than to fit a camel through the eye of a needle, which apparently was like the entrance to the in Jerusalem, like where the donkey would, and the prophecy of the Messiah on the donkey or whatever, that's like tied to that somehow. Like it's like I don't know, something. The word for eye of the needle is the same word used for the hole in the wall. I don't know, something like
right.
that.
Yeah. The Jerusalem. Europe has to do with Turkey. Jerusalem was in Turkey.
Something like that, yeah. Just we're talking about camels. Yeah.
I like it. Well, guys, I really appreciate that you took the time to do this show. I can't wait to do it next week. I really enjoy having you. Do you want to tell them where they can get some of your content in the meantime?
You talking to me?
Go ahead. You go first.
These guys.
My content, the syncbook.com. /Sync Media Research. If you go to the syncmedia.com and you scroll down to videos, you can see an image of Dorothy getting a beam of light turning into a rainbow on her head. Keep going down.
There she is.
There you go. That's SyncFlix. And so I have like over 200 movies for streaming and download for free that are media experiments, just looking at resonance between albums and films and seeing the results. Sometimes they have volume in between the vocals from the film. Sometimes they don't, depending on what works better. And that's like 26 years of research at this point, I guess, something like that.
Man, so what we'll do also is I'm gonna have
there's Robert Wagner there.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm gonna get Benevolent Dreams. You're probably here somewhere, so we're gonna do it again Saturday. I'll be there this time, and hopefully, David, if you're down, you're invited. I'll make sure you have a link. And Eddie, if you won't have any free time on Saturday, you want to join us for watching one of these sync flicks, you are definitely invited to be part of this panel. I think that'll be fun.
I try.
I understand. And then also Synchronous. If you're gonna go look for Eddie, this is Synchronous on Facebook. Tell us a bit about your finding your way.
So Synchronous is the little collective. It's been on Facebook for almost 2 years now, I think. I didn't even know when I created the group, but yeah, we've got more than 310 members right now, and I post most of the stuff, but I'm trying to encourage people to join in and post related subjects. So it's just an open forum for everybody who wants to talk about mostly about sync subjects, synchronicity, and see if we can have people. It's a think tank. People just try to connect the dots together. I post a lot of news articles, not necessarily be able to sync up anything, but at least sooner or later things will start to connect. And also conspiracies involved, and sometimes people do fight over ideas, but it gets people talking. So we need more members who are active in posting these subjects and it's a nonprofit. So it's yeah, just a little playground for people to play with ideas. So come to Facebook and join us. And that's all.
Synchronous. Syncronus. Synchronous. Yeah, it's Synchronous. It's a great group, and also it's a great place to get your news from. Even if you're looking at trying to get mainstream news, Eddie will cover that. He just covers it in a much better way. So I appreciate that you do that.
I try to make sense of out of nothing.
We also have the kitchen sink. I need to at least reference. There's no like teams at odds as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the sync communities online. I think that they're complementary. I don't know why anyone would have to think otherwise.
Kitchen Sink. Alan started this group. I don't know if Alan's still in the group. I think he left Facebook, and I know David's left Facebook as well. But it's a great group, and there's some really good stuff. Sybil is always posting. I want to get Sybil on. I'm gonna have to actually.
Oh yeah, she's awesome. Yeah.
Pete Davidson shares rough childhood after father's 9/11 passing. 118. If you're looking for sync groups, it's a little smaller than Synchronous, but it's also a good group. And I think that it's quality over quantity in these kinds of groups anyway. So both are great groups.
Yeah, these were old friends. We kind of broke our way, but we're the same people who want to think that the same. We have the same goals.
There's definitely some overlap too, which is good. Yeah.
Who's the admin of the
I know Sybil is an admin. She's one of the admins. I don't know.
Oh, is she still? I don't know. Will Morgan I know is, but
Will, right? And we should get Will.
I'm gonna be contacting him.
Great. So this show is getting to, as you can see, we've kind of built a format, but it's going to get weirder and weirder and more awesome. So it's awesome that we're doing this tonight. You guys don't even know how weird the people we know are. So it's gonna be kind of great. I like that. But all right, everybody, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. I can't wait to do this again. I love you guys very much. Take care.
All right.